And now the official hello. Hello, Chris Ryan.
Hello, officially.
What's going on, buddy? How are you?
Everything.
You distinguished-looking motherfucker.
Am I distinguished? Well, that's
what's going on with the goatee, the whole deal?
Yeah, it comes and goes. I don't know.
What have you been up to, man? I've been following your Instagram chronicles.
Have you?
You're traveling the world in a van. What are you doing?
Vanthropology, I call it. It's the Vanthropology tour. Yeah. Yeah, I love it, man. It's like, you and I have probably spoken about in my 20s, I backpacked all over the world, hitchhiked to Alaska a couple times and, did all these adventures. A Sprinter van that you have a bed in and a cooler and a freezer, and that's kind of like a backpack for an older, slightly richer dude. That's
right.
That's how I look at it. Because you have everything you need with you.
Yeah.
Which is a feeling I love. I love just being able to say, you know what? I'm tired. I'm going to pull over and sleep right here. And before I do, I'm going to have a couple of beers and listen to some music. And, it's like everything I need is right here.
Right. What is the deal with pulling over in a Sprinter van and drinking? Are there you're not even allowed to be drunk in the back seat of your own car.
Yeah, I believe if you have a bed, it's considered a domicile. Oh. That's what I've been told. I'm not a legal expert, but my understanding is that the front two seats are considered the vehicle, but beyond that, in the back where you have the bed and all the stuff, that's considered your house. So a warrant to search is the same as someone coming into your house.
Oh.
Yeah.
Because I know a dude who got in trouble because he was drunk in the back seat of his car because he knew he was drunk. And so he's like, I'm not fucking driving. I'm just going to sleep it off. And he laid down in the back seat of his car and the cops knocked on the door. And he opened up the door and he said, yeah, I'm drunk and I'm sleeping off. And they arrested him.
That's bullshit.
Yeah. Well, some cops, they feel like they have to make a certain number of arrests. Some places have
quotas.
Yeah. Which is, I've always thought that was so strange. Like, what happens if no one commits crimes? What do they do about the quotas? Do they just make up crimes?
And how do they fill those prisons that are, dependent upon 98% occupancy rate? Yeah,
they just assume that there's going to be a certain amount of people that fuck up. Like, what happens if something happens? I don't know what it would be other than a mass consumption of mushrooms across the
people
entire
just
population.
Stop breaking laws?
Yeah, people just stop.
They'll just pass laws. Every one of us breaks several laws every day, right? Like there are laws we don't even know exist that we're breaking.
Like what kind of laws do you think?
Oh, God, I read an article about this years ago. I'd be hard-pressed to give you examples right now, but I'm sure there are financial laws, and we're all cheating on our taxes. Not me. But everyone I know except for Joe.
I hand mine off to accountants. I don't handle that at all.
But cutting corners. We're all cutting corners. I ran 2 yellow lights on my way here, I'm sure. I probably, was 4 miles per hour over the speed limit.
So that's how they'd get you.
Yeah.
What about autonomous vehicles?
Yeah.
Once that kicks into gear, that's going to be real interesting when no one's ever breaking the speed limit. What do they do? What is this, Jamie? 6 laws you broke without realizing it?
Jamie, Cracked. You're the best, man.
Cracked.com always has great articles like this. So what does it say? What do we got here?
Connecting to unsecured Wi-Fi networks.
That's against the law? What?
There you go.
So if you go to Starbucks and it's an unsecured or the airport,
those are open for that purpose. But like if your neighbor leaves theirs unopen, I think that's what it's saying right here.
I see. Don't do that.
Wi-Fi squatting.
What about every time you click on you update some software and you click agree, I have read and agree to this? Right. You didn't read that shit. Well, nobody reads it.
One of the things that Snowden talked about yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, about the terms and conditions that you accept.
And who knows what's in there that then you're not complying with.
You'd have to have a lawyer go over every piece of it, and then a lot of it is open to interpretation, and they can change it at a moment's notice.
Right.
One of the things that you see in terms and conditions is they have the ability to change it without notice, which is like what, Sam Harris had a great podcast with this guy who was an expert in data collection. He was talking about what's actually happening now is that there's a commodity. That commodity is data, and we didn't know it was a commodity.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, these companies like Facebook and Google made billions and billions of dollars off of this commodity that we didn't even know we were giving up.
Yeah.
And we didn't know that they had it. We didn't know it was valuable. And then,
and there's no way to protect it.
And that's their business model. Their business model is, and then also their business model is tricking you into clicking on things by getting you outraged. So they're consistently bringing up things, whether it's, Trump or abortion or whatever it is that like gets you riled up. That outrage algorithm is going to find your little soft spot. Oh, God damn
I saw you just posted something on that recently on Twitter.
Facebook thing. Yeah, Facebook.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was an argument that Facebook is the what it is an algorithm that's designed to find outrage. It's not free speech.
Right.
And it's just an outrage accelerometer or something.
Right. Well, you think about even, that goes back to William Randolph Hearst, saying like, I'll give you the war, you give me the war, I'll sell the papers and get the public behind it because it's good business.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's an interesting world, isn't it? Were you talking about Tristan Harris? Was that the guy on Sam Harris's podcast, the ethicist?
I do not know. I don't remember.
I heard him on Sam Harris's podcast. He was I think he has a PhD in computer science and philosophy, and he worked at Google as their like in-house ethicist. And then he quit because it's like
there's no such job.
Don't be evil. Exactly.
They stopped having that. Don't be evil doesn't exist anymore.
It doesn't exist.
How
exactly.
crazy is that? When you have that, and you go, let's get rid of that.
Yeah, you can be evil.
What a weird thing to both have and then weirder still to remove.
Yeah. I want to get a marriage contract that has that clause in it where you can update it without notification. Just get that in there. Have your lawyer slip that into the prenup.
Yeah, at any moment you could bail. It's fine.
Or bail or just change the terms. Yeah, I don't know. It's a strange world, Joe. That's why I like being in my van. Keep things simple.
Well, humans are strange creatures, and we vary so widely that, trying to make any sense of putting 300 million of us together on an island, essentially. Yeah. Like, good luck with that.
And we vary not only individually, but I think we vary we become different creatures in different conditions.
Sure.
So people sometimes will ask me, like, what is human nature? What's your opinion, based on these books? And I say it's like asking, what's the natural state of H2O?
Right. Is it boiling? Is it ice?
Yeah, exactly. What's the pressure? What's the altitude?
Yeah. Don't you feel like you're different people with different people as well?
Yeah. I had a girlfriend, a Spanish. Her mother was French. Her father's Catalan. She was raised in Spain and then lived in Miami when she was 13 to 15 or something. So she spoke English really well, Spanish, French, and Catalan perfectly, right? And we were living in San Francisco, and I was high. I was smoking a joint. She was across the room talking to her mom on the phone in French. And then her mom put her dad on the phone, so she switched to Catalan. And I was just high enough that I noticed, like, wow, that's not Peggy talking two different languages. And then three, because she would like put her hand on the phone and say, oh, my mom said, no. So English, French, Catalan. It's not Peggy speaking three languages. Those are three different Peggys. Ooh. She's different. Her facial tics and her movements and her body position changed depending on the language she was speaking, right? And at the time I was in grad school, and I thought this is like multiple personality disorder. So I started researching multiple personality, and I sort of came up with this idea that language, in her case, because she learned them all when she was very young, reconfigures the brain in such a way that she actually has different identities in those languages. Ooh. And next time we were fucking, I started talking to her in Spanish, and she freaked out.
She got mad at you?
Yes, she like I was a stranger suddenly.
Whoa!
Yeah, I just said like you're beautiful or something. She's like, get away! Estás muy guapo. Eres muy guapo. I'm like, get away from me, you creep! Because our whole relationship had been in English. Whoa. Yeah, it was strange. So anyway, I looked into multiple personality disorder. The story has everything. And I don't know if you've checked that out. You remember Stanley Krippner, my buddy who came down and did the podcast with you? Yeah. He had done a bunch of research on that. And there was a movie called Sybil.
Yeah, I remember that.
He was the consultant for that movie.
Oh.
He was also a consultant for Rosemary's Baby. Remember that? The possession.
Yeah.
Anyway.
That's a Polanski movie.
I think so, yeah. Yeah, one of the early ones.
Yeah.
People have, with multiple personality disorder, the research is bizarre. It seems to indicate that people have different physiological states in the different personalities. So you could have a different baseline heart rate, blood pressure, these sort of
different baseline heart rate.
Yeah, in the different. Even now, this is just. I don't know how reliable this is, but I even read that some people have different ocular pressure, so that one personality needs reading glasses and another doesn't.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my God! How much is psychosomatic? Like really? Like how much? How much of who you are and how your body works is dependent upon the way your brain is catching things.
Right. Culture, language,
yeah.
Personal experience. I mean, it's all your mood, how much you slept the night before, all these things tie into. Identity is something we take for granted, but if you start to look at it, it's like gravity. Gravity we sort of included in our calculations, but nobody has any idea what's happening.
Right.
How does that work? Like, Neil
deGrasse
two things
Tyson
are attracted.
Got real touchy about it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. When I brought it up, we had a weird conversation, and I think part of the weird conversation was the first conversation that he's had publicly since he's been accused of,
right.
But
he came back from
sexual misconduct. Yeah. Well, they found him innocent according to whatever internal investigation they had. When they were doing his television show,
right?
The planetarium, but it's still even if he's proven innocent, you've got the weight of who knows how many people that think you're a creep now.
Right.
And he's carrying that around because he was always thought of as being this jovial, really sweet, nice guy. So he's a little tense anyway.
That's why I start out admitting I'm a creep.
It's good.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am a fucking creep.
You can't
Let's
shame
take it
Charlie
from there.
Sheen.
Exactly.
You cannot shame Charlie Sheen. But we had this conversation about gravity, and it was weird. It was like I was arguing with him, but I wasn't arguing. I was like, what is causing, like what causes it? And he's like, we know. Like he went into this whole thing. We know what it is. We know how to measure it. That's good enough for me.
Yeah.
It was a very tense conversation.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Because it is a faith-based thing there, Like he's right. They know how to measure it. Mm-hmm. But we also know how to measure placebo.
Right.
And we don't know how the fuck that works. We know that hypnosis, people can have open heart surgery under hypnosis or have limbs amputated or all sorts of amazing things with no anesthesia whatsoever.
Has that really been done?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Have you ever been hypnotized?
Yeah. But I don't have high hypnotic ability. That differs. It's another thing that differs among people. And Stanley actually has a really interesting theory along those lines, which is that in prehistoric populations, hypnotic ability would be adaptive because a lot of the healing rituals were keying into placebo response. So if we have a certain ritual, if you're susceptible to, you believe in that, like voodoo, there's a, voodoo death. People die when a spell is cast or occurs because they believe it. If you don't believe it, it doesn't happen. So it happens the opposite direction as well with healing. So his idea is that would have been a very adaptive characteristic in prehistoric societies, whereas in contemporary societies it's maladaptive because you're more susceptible to advertising or you're easier to manipulate. Yeah. So I've when I was in grad school, I had some professors who worked with hypnosis, and I studied it a bit around the same time I was looking at multiple personality disorder, because I was real interested in this question of how the brain and the body interact, how much of, there's all this research showing that people with the same condition in hospitals, exactly same age, same prognosis and all that, they heal significantly faster if their hospital window looks out on trees as opposed to looks out at another building. Something like that. Just looking at something like nature keys the body into to some sort of energy that helps it to heal.
Completely makes sense. I've met people with multiple personalities. Well, Roseanne's got, doesn't she? Make sure that's true. I know another one that's a weird one is the football player Herschel Walker. I think he had trauma-induced multiple personality disorders.
Wow.
Does she?
There's the articles that says like Bill Maher reminds us she does, and then Roseanne says she doesn't. So.
Yeah, I think.
And then
she
2001
does.
says having 7 personalities is tough. Her saying it, so.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing about Roseanne. I mean, I'm saying this for the 10th time, I guess. She was hit by a car when she was 15, and she was put in a mental institute for 9 months afterwards. She had severe brain damage, and she lost her ability to do mathematics and like really scrambled her brain. And that is probably the birth of the Roseanne that we know, the comedian. And that's also the case with Sam Kinison. Sam Kinison was also like a pretty normal kid, and then he was hit by a car and, pretty severe brain damage as well. And brain damage for especially apparently it especially has an impact on your ability to be rational and impulsive behavior. Like people with brain damage a lot of times get very impulsive. It varies so widely.
Yeah.
It's what happens to you dependent upon like what kind of trauma, where the trauma is, and what part of your brain. But when they said it about Herschel Walker, I was always confused. I wonder if it was from football, like football trauma, or was it personal trauma, like, abuse? Yeah,
people that are diagnosed with multiple personality disorder, if I remember correctly, almost always were severely abused as kids. And in fact, the rationale is that they develop the alternate personalities as a way of escaping a reality that's intolerable.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, people do weird things with horrible memories. They bury them to the point where they don't even really have access to them anymore.
Yeah.
Sexual abuse and some traumatic events when you're young.
Yeah.
But the fucking human brain, then the way it adapts and molds to things is so bizarre.
Yeah, there's an anecdote that is in this book, Civilized to Death. Notice that segue.
Ooh, good segue to the book. Pull that bitch over here.
Yeah. It's by the way, the art is done by a guy who listens to my podcast. It's really.
It looks like the art by a guy who listens to your podcast. A chimp wearing a cheeseburger with a nice suit on.
Yeah, he's got an iPhone. The story. So there's a species of grasshopper in North Africa that they hang out. They're grasshoppers. They're dispersed. They eat grass. They chill, right? Rains come. The grasslands expand. Grasshopper population increases. Then the rains stop. The grasslands contract to the point where the density of the grasshoppers triggers dormant genes. So there's an epigenetic event in these grasshoppers, and they start to transform. And not over generations, individuals. Front legs get shorter, back legs get longer, thorax changes, shape of the head changes, coloring changes, and behavior changes from being these chilled out, solitary, relaxed grasshoppers. They start attacking each other. They become cannibalistic.
Whoa.
And they swarm. Locusts. Exactly. Yeah. They become locusts.
Yeah.
So this species of grasshopper and locust is the same species. Yeah. It's the same DNA. It's just responding to different conditions. So, we're talking about the brain and who you are and what identity is and all that. And I was reminded of this when you said, people are so different. And the H2O thing. Yeah. We're not only different as individuals in the same context, we change completely given the context we're in.
Yeah.
So the focus of this book is that hunter-gatherers were essentially a different sort of animal. They were essentially, the parallel is with the grasshoppers, and now we're swarming.
Yeah.
Now we're a different kind of animal, even though our DNA is the same.
Well, that completely makes sense. I mean, people that live in small towns are so different than people that live in cities.
Yeah.
It's so rare that you find someone who has a small town sensibility in Manhattan.
Yeah, they get chewed up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Literally.
Yeah, literally. Yeah. It's that's the locust thing's amazing. Have you ever written or read rather the accounts of the settlers in the pioneer days, making their way across the country and dealing with these swarms of locusts and really not having any idea what to do with them or how to handle it?
Eat them.
Yeah, you can.
The Native Americans ate them. Yeah,
yeah. That's probably a real good move, right?
Yeah.
That's one of the things that people think is probably an excellent solution to some of the issues that people have with meat. Because a lot of people don't have any problem killing bugs, but they wouldn't want to kill a lamb.
Right.
But you can have cricket protein. It's
we call it microagriculture.
Yeah. Cricket protein is apparently like very healthy.
Good. I've eaten crickets.
Yeah, I have too.
In Thailand?
I've had them in Mexico.
Oh, yeah.
Mexico, they had them fried, and we were staying at a resort in, where was it? Punta Mita? Yeah, I think it was down there. Puerto Vallarta.
Yeah.
And they had a bowl in the resort, like when we walked into the hotel room. We're like, okay.
Like mince?
Yeah, they had like sliced mangoes, and then they had fucking crickets. And I was like, all right, I'll try that. I hosted Fear Factor.
There's a restaurant here in L.A. that I was at just a couple of weeks ago that has all sorts of crickets and grasshoppers.
Really? What's it called?
It's a Mexican place. They specialize in mole. I don't remember what it's called. A
good Mexican place?
It's really good.
Isn't it weird that like there's a lot of great Mexican food in L.A., but it's like, like your basic burrito joints and taco joints. It's not like gourmet Mexican food. There's very few gourmet Mexican places.
This place is...
Is that it right there?
Yeah, that's it. That's why I couldn't remember the name.
Jamie.
Guelaguetza.
Jamie's on top of it. Is that how you say it? Have you been there?
No, I know the word. It's like I don't know if it means party, but it's a celebration down in like Oaxaca.
Yeah.
Damn.
Oaxaca.
Serving up insects.
Yeah, check it out. It's a good place. I really, the mole is fantastic.
Where is that at? What part of LA?
On Olympic.
Oh, okay. Deep in the heart of Texas.
Yeah.
Bam. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Mole. I love mole.
And let's face it, shrimp, lobster, that's just bugs. Mm-hmm. Those are just big sea bugs.
Well, we found that out on Fear Factor because people that are allergic to shellfish are also allergic to roaches.
Ah.
Yeah, we found that out the hard way.
A lawsuit?
No. The dude was allergic to shellfish, and he had to eat roaches for this thing, and they wound up having to give him an adrenaline shot.
Oh, he was, EpiPen.
Yeah, he was seizing up a little bit.
That's not good.
Your windpipe starts constricting.
Yeah. I'm not allergic to anything as far as I know.
Congratulations.
I'm very happy. Yeah.
Me too. Yeah, that's a bummer, man. Allergies are, especially freaking peanuts. I've heard peanut allergies are so bad that people will ask you to not eat peanuts on a plane with someone who has a peanut allergy. Like some people's peanut allergy is so severe that even like the dust of you chewing peanuts on a plane next to them could get them sick.
And it's interesting to think about the state of consciousness and how that affects allergies, because apparently, and again, I'm always cautious about saying shit on the show because there's so many people listening. So caveat, it's been a long time since I read the research, but if I remember correctly, under hypnosis, a lot of people with allergies no longer. In fact, I remember the research. Yeah, it was a setup where the person could see. So like you and I are talking across the table and there's a mirror behind me, and in the mirror, in your peripheral vision, you see roses, and you're allergic to roses. You'll have a reaction, even though they're plastic roses. Oh. So it sort of enters the consciousness and triggers the response subconsciously. Yeah, if I think that's how it was. And then with people under hypnosis, like Andrew Weil wrote about this, cat allergies. He was tripping. He was on MDMA, I think, and he was playing with a cat and had no reaction to it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Look at this. Self-hypnosis squelches allergies.
I need a Jamie in my life.
You do.
Damn.
Picturing ski slopes reduces hay fever symptoms by a third.
Look at that.
Picturing ski slopes. How weird. What a weird, I'm skiing.
Well, because you're picturing a place where there's no pollen.
Right.
Right? You could probably picture the surface of Mars, too.
Yeah, well, if you've got a needle, like you get a shot and the doctor's about to give you the shot and you start like tensing up, like you feel this like the anticipation. It makes it like your heart starts quickening and you get like really weirded out by it. But then you get the shot and you're like, oh, that wasn't shit. Like, why was I freaking out like that? But it's the psychosomatic aspect of it.
I think that's what life is, basically, in a nutshell.
Yeah,
in a nutshell.
It's an analogy.
Like, we're always worried about things. We spend so much time worrying about things, most of which never occur.
Yeah.
You know, and even the ones that do occur, it's like, wow, whatever. Like death. You know, I'm not worried about death. Dying, maybe, if it takes too long. Mm-hmm. But if it takes like an hour or a day to die, that's a tiny fraction of your life. Who gives a shit?
You're not a guy that really spends a lot of time working on fitness or health or any of those.
That's a nice way to put it.
Well, you enjoyed that article
Lazy
that I wrote back in the day.
is what you're trying to say.
Man. I love you. But
I take it as a compliment.
I
got better things to do than work out, Joe.
I get it. You enjoyed that article that I wrote a long time ago.
I did.
About
the sand.
Yeah, human body's like a sandcastle.
Yeah.
You can make it beautiful, but it's not going to last.
Yeah.
And you know that going in. You know that way you're doing it.
And I mean, I've got this idea for a book, if I keep writing books, which is sort of a self-help book, but it's a parody of self-help books. And so it'll be calling attention to the way so much of what we do to try to be healthy is actually counterproductive because we stress, especially Americans. Everything's work, you know, everything turns into work. And Americans are very suspicious of pleasure. We're taught to that pleasure is, evil and dangerous and all this. Mm-hmm. I've never bought that line of reasoning. I've always felt like what feels good generally is good. There's a reason it feels good, you know? Yeah. Now, that can get corrupted by advertising and false messaging from a sick society that tells you, you know, sit on the sofa and drink beer and eat bags of chips all day. But if you get beyond that and you can actually hear the voice of your body, I think if your body is telling you to, you know, stay in bed because it's a rainy, cold day. Now, I know this is totally against your perspective on life, where you're like, you got to tame the inner bitch, you got to get out of bed, you got to work out, it doesn't matter. I'm like, no, man, I'm staying in bed. Like, you go do what you need to do. I used to climb mountains with this friend of mine in Spain, and he was like you. He was a fucking billy goat. He'd like go up and I'd go with him till I got to a nice spot with a nice view. I'd be like, dude, I'll be here when you come down. Taking a nap, got a bottle of wine and some cheese.
I appreciate that too. I'm not married to my perspective, but I think I have a very peculiar biology that demands a certain amount of exertion.
Yeah,
me personally.
And I have friends like that. I mean, I have lots of friends like, man, if I don't run every day, I feel like shit. I'm like,
running's very addictive, though.
I feel fine.
Yeah, you get used to it. There's a high that you get from running that's really interesting. And any long-term cardiovascular exercise, you get this. It's like we did, you know, last October, we did the Sober October thing where we had this crazy fitness challenge. So all of us were doing cardio like 5 hours a day, like really crazy amounts of cardio. And one of the things that Tom Segura and I both agreed on is like the amount of internal chatter dissipates to zero. Like you have no anxiety. It goes, I didn't realize I had any anxiety until that happened. And then I was like, God, it goes to zero. It goes to nothing. Like when you do like 5 hours on a treadmill or you just running, just run for when it's done, man, there's this like peace of mind that comes with that. This release of endorphins that's incredibly addictive because that feeling is so pleasing. So it's not that it doesn't feel good to get out of bed and to just push when you don't want to, but the end result feels amazing. It does feel really good.
I wonder if there's any research looking into whether that effect happens universally. Because I've worked out, I've run. There were times in my life I've never gotten a runner's high. No. Never. I get my teeth hurt, my knees hurt, my back hurts. I feel my brain, bouncing around in my skull. I'm half a mile into it and I'm like, fuck this. This doesn't feel good.
You have to get in shape first. That's a big part of it. It's not that simple. It's like for me, I never really got into running. Like the first time I really did any serious running, my friend Cam Haynes had a 5K, which is, what is that, 3 miles, something like that?
Something like that, yeah.
And I didn't run at all in preparation for it. And when I ran, the 5K. I was like, Jesus Christ, this is hard. Like I didn't have, and there was no good feeling at all.
Yeah.
You know, it's running on concrete and shit. And
Right.
in Vegas, it's gross.
Oh, in Vegas.
Just smelling sin in the air. And but when it was over, I was like, okay, obviously, I'm in good shape, but not in good running shape at all. So I should probably get in shape for this. So then I started running. And then when I got into running, and particularly running hills, then I started feeling it once I kind of got in that kind of shape. And then when the workouts are over, like I run all the time now. And when it's over, I just have this.
Yeah, you and Marshall are
Yeah.
doing your thing. It's great.
Yeah, I fucking and he loves it too. There's a crazy bonding experience with that dog, you know,
Yeah.
because he loves it, you know.
I got my dad a golden retriever.
They're the best dogs.
Years ago when my dad was like, maybe it's genetic because he was pretty lazy. He'd come home from work and he'd, sit in front of the TV and drink vodka and get upset about the news. And my mother didn't like dogs, but my sister and I convinced her that Dad needs a dog because Dad will get this dog and he'll go for walks because the dog needs to walk. And so we got him a golden retriever. He named it Stoli. Bad sign right there. And then he never went for walks. Stoli just sat next to him and got fat.
Oh, poor Stoli.
I know.
Well, it's common.
Doesn't always work.
No. Yeah, it helps me get going because I know that he needs exercise.
Yeah.
It does. But it helps me too. And it's fun. Like, I talk to him when we run, Like, as we're running, I have little conversations with him.
Yeah. Cool.
Fun.
He's not judging you, right?
He doesn't give a fuck. I could be fat. I could be covered in shit. He wouldn't give.
He'd probably prefer that. Make it more interesting.
Yeah, but the runner's high is a real thing. But you have to achieve some level of fitness before I think it kicks in.
Yeah, I closest I've come to that is the sex high.
Post. Yeah.
No, during.
Post-coital.
It's like
during.
Maybe there's like a workout element to that.
Well, sex when you're really aroused and you're really attracted to the person, like in the middle of the act of it, it's like you're on a drug.
Yeah.
It can be like this incredible elevation where you're high, basically. You're high in this
sure
crazy
endorphins,
aroused state.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have that hyper focus that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Removing anxiety. You're not thinking about. Anything other than where you are. It's one of those beautiful moments. I had a guy on my podcast recently who's like a legend in the world of like high risk stuff. He's a base jumper and he flies those wingsuits.
What's his name?
Oh fuck! What is his name? He lives in Bozeman, Montana.
Andy Stump?
No.
That's crazy because my friend Andy Stump lives in Montana too.
I'm sure he knows him.
He holds the world record for that wingsuit shit.
Ben Stewart, could it be? I don't remember.
I'm sure Andy knows him.
Yeah, for sure.
He lives in Bozeman.
And this guy's 44. He's been doing it a long time, and
it's about how old Andy is.
Yeah.
Andy's probably a little.
They probably
younger than
fly
that.
together. Yeah, really nice guy. But it was interesting, like how here's this guy who's doing this super high risk adrenaline stuff. And like he just had done this thing where he's paragliding with another dude on the Brooks Range in Alaska. And like just the two of them, and they land and camp.
Oh my God.
Nowhere, bears everywhere, like forget it. And then they'd get up the next morning, jump off the mountain and keep going. It's like, fuck. But this guy was so calm. He was just like, it was like talking to Buddha or something. He was just like so centered and relaxed and focused. It was beautiful. We had a really enjoyable conversation from my perspective anyway, because I tend to be kind of scattered and, tangentially speaking, right? I'm going all over the place. Whereas he was just like, it was just really centered and balanced. It was nice.
I guess you have to have laser focus if you're going to fuck around with that kind of stuff.
That's it. You don't want to.
Is that the Jeff?
Yeah, Jeff Shapiro. That's
there he
him.
is.
Yeah,
look at him.
Yeah, thanks, Jamie.
He looks like
and
Buddha.
that's his Falcon. He's
Jesus.
got this Falcon as well.
Right when I was starting to love him.
Yeah,
He's got a fucking Falcon.
he's all into flight, man. That's
I guess
his
so.
thing. Yeah, he's a cool dude.
Those wingsuits, man. I mean, talk about risk versus reward. Fuck.
He told his story. He was like, he said, yeah, I've had the experience a few times of, standing on this toes over the cliff, 3,000 feet up or whatever, and fist bump with your buddy, and he goes and says, see you down there. He goes, and then you hear it.
Bang.
Yeah, he's gone. Like, I've carried dudes' bodies out of the woods, like I've done that too many times. He was talking about, these different approaches and how the young guys tend to be more, fuck it, man. They think they're indestructible. And at his age, he's seen enough, he's carried enough bodies, he's lost enough friends that he's not thinking that way anymore, and he doesn't want to be around guys who are. Because he doesn't want to deal with the trauma,
Well, there's a competitive aspect to it too. Like, come on, don't be a pussy.
Yeah.
Like that stuff can get you killed too. Because then it just like sort of hijacks your own way of interacting with whatever the fuck this danger is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, peer pressure.
Yeah, that's real. Yeah.
I start off, I'm a pussy. I'm a creep. I'm a pussy. Like, you got no leverage. I'm lazy.
You know what fascinates me, man? Mob mentality. Mob mentality, like if there's like a riot, like physical violence, but in a way that you would never, like a lot of people who would never think about hitting someone when people are hitting people all over the place. You'll just dive in. Like, people will dive in and kick people and punch people. It's very weird.
Like bar fights, you see. I've never seen one in real life. I've seen
a bunch of them.
Have you? Does that happen? People just randomly punching each other?
Oh yeah. People just punch people. Yeah. I've seen some pretty chaotic brawls. But there's a strange feeling in the air. It's almost like a smell. Jamie, you're nodding.
I was at a riot, and that earlier in the day we were like, the hornet's nest is going to explode tonight. We kind of felt it.
What was the premise?
It was, after the Ohio State Michigan game in like 2002, big Ohio State Michigan game. I know you don't really understand the football thing of it, but it's a huge day, big event. We won in a very close game, undefeated season for Ohio State, so they were headed to the national championship. This then meant sofas on fire in the street for like the next couple hours. And then shortly as the night exploded, there was a couple bonfires in the middle of a street. We saw that on the news, so we went close to see it because we were a couple blocks away. As we got close, we heard the knee knocker bullets getting fired out, so everybody scattered.
Were those rubber bullets?
Yeah, everyone went from one street on campus to like 3 other streets. Then it started up again. The street I was on, 7 cars got flipped over, I think, and lit on fire. So people started trying to like move their car so they didn't lose it because they're college kids, don't have any money, whatever. A lot of those people got caught on video, expelled from school, whatever. But at the end of that street, we were on it. We saw all the riot police, the SWAT team, like lining up. They started firing out tear gas everywhere. A tear gas canister ended up on the porch of the house we were in, like exploded in the house almost. So, like, we were all coughing and had to get the fuck out of there. Lasted for a couple of hours. Like, no one died, anything like that. There wasn't a lot of violence, but just 12 to 15 cars got fucked up.
The thing is, someone could have died. That's what's really crazy about those chaotic moments of violence is that when something's in the air like that and you see like a big brawl going on, it's like everything seems like civilization's flimsy. Like, for that brief moment. I think there's a natural thing that kicks in with people that sort of allows them to act in war and allows them to act like when the tribe is invaded. Like when a neighboring army invades your village, there's some thing that kicks in where you like recognize this is violence and you just look to swing on anybody that's around you. And you see it in these brawls when you see some sort of a riot. Like, you see these people and you're like, I guarantee you that guy's never punched anybody before in his life, and he's running over trying to punch people, and everybody's punching everybody, and people are swinging, and you see it in these fucking whenever you see like an Antifa versus Proud Boys type thing, you know what I mean? Like these left versus right, Trump supporters versus Bernie bros, and you see chaos.
You're talking about online or
online?
in
I
the
haven't
street?
seen those in person, but when you see these moments,
tribal
moments where it feels like it could break out into violence at any time, is a smell in the air. It's like it changes the atmosphere of the air, and you feel like you got to protect yourself. Like anything can happen at any moment from people that you would never think of as being violent. Like you would never assume that these folks would be violent to you. They don't look scary. They're not scary looking people, but everybody just seems to get on. It's like a thing happens, like the locust.
Right.
Like a little trigger happens with people.
Dormant behavior patterns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've often wondered about what that is because I've been around it a bunch of times. And I was around it once big time in high school. When I was in high school, there was a kid who lived in this really nice house. And he moved into the neighborhood for the first time, and he decided he was going to have a party to meet a bunch of people, make friends. And people started robbing his house, and a brawl broke out. I'll never forget it. And I was there at the event horizon of the brawl. I was there at the moment it happened. A girl did something to a guy. I can't remember what she did. I can't remember if she threw a drink in his face or if she hit him. I don't remember. But I remember him hitting her. Because I remember him pulling his hand back. I'm like, oh my God, he's going to punch her in the face. And boom, he punched her right. I mean, like, he knew how to punch too. It was like a real punch to the face. The girl goes unconscious. And then, she falls back and then chaos. I mean, people diving on top of people, piles of people out in the yard. Everybody's fighting everybody. You're just ducking. It's like a movie. And
almost everyone has no idea what they're even fighting about.
No, I saw the moment it happened. I was there. God, I wish I could remember. Memory's so sucky. It really is. I have like this blurry slideshow, but I do remember that fist hitting her face because I remember he went like this. I was like, oh no, he knows how to punch. And he went bang! He just cracked her in the face. And she just, like, her head went back and she went out cold. And I think somebody caught her. As she was going down. And then it was just melee. But I remember the feeling in the air because that was the first time I think I'd ever been around anything like that. I was like, "Whoa!" It's piles of kids fighting on the, all.
Were you fighting?
No, I was running away from everybody. I was like, "I gotta get the fuck out of here."
Yeah.
I always did martial arts, but I was very, very rarely involved in any extracurricular altercations. So I just got the fuck out of there. And the other time was when I was a security guard for Great Woods. Great Woods is a place in Mansfield, Massachusetts. It was like this concert venue. And Neil Young was playing, of all people. And there's a lawn area.
I've slept in his bed.
Have you really?
Yo, I can't tell that story. Shit.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, never mind. And I haven't.
Erase bad memory. So it's an amphitheater. So there's this covered seated area, and then behind the covered seated area is this gigantic lawn area. And I don't remember if it was cold out. I remember what the deal was, but people started lighting fires on the lawn, like little bonfires. And then chaos broke out. The security people started trying to put out the fires and tell people to stop. And then people started hitting people and just crazy. And I always kept a hoodie with me. Because I was getting like $9 an hour or something like that.
Right.
I'm not going to get shot for $9 an hour or beat up. Fuck this. So as soon as shit went crazy, I put my zip up. I put my hoodie on. I'm like, I quit. I quit the job.
Nice.
And as I was leaving, as I was quitting, I was watching people just beat the fuck out of people. And I was like dodging my way through this thing. I'm like, get out of here with this stupid fucking job.
You got to know when to leave, man.
But it was a feeling. It was like, oh, there's that fucking smell in the air. Like anything can happen at any moment now.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you think about these dudes who, come back from war with PTSD. Again, it's this consciousness, context-dependent behavior where, they do things in that situation and then they come back to the normal world. It's like coming out of a dream and it's hard to believe you did that, It's hard to believe that was you. And how do you integrate that into your life with your wife and your kids and mom and dad and the neighbors? Those poor guys, they're dealing with some real heavy shit there.
And no one tells you how to do that either.
No one knows how to do it.
Right.
Yeah. And no one gives a shit, right? Like once they get there, get you to go do what they want to do, then, it's hard to even get, there's a 2-year wait for any sort of psychological counseling.
Is it really?
Yeah. It depends on the state, but at least that. I had a guy on the podcast. Actually, the one Jamie showed, it was right before the wingsuit dude, was a dude who had been in Iraq, and then he came back and worked as a SWAT team commander. So he was like doing all sorts of really heavy stuff, and then he just got out, and now he's living off grid in Idaho, raising 3 little boys with his wife, and he's a former Mormon, so he sort of talked about how his Mormonism taught him to respect authority and do what he was told, and that just fed right into his experience in the Army and with the police, and But man, yeah, I have so much compassion for those guys who get out and like look back and say, what did I do? You know?
Yeah.
Who was that guy?
Right. How they sort of like stop that, like stop the thought process when they come back into civilization.
Yeah.
But still have the memories.
And how do you trust yourself?
Right.
You know, that I'm not going to hurt anyone else. Mm-hmm. You know? Yeah, it's hard. And yeah, like we were just saying, they get very little support, you know. They're sent off to do this horrible stuff, and then they come back and it's like, okay, now don't do that anymore.
Yeah, the incremental progress that we achieve as a civilization it's amazing, but also so frustratingly slow that no one I've ever talked to thinks there's going to be a moment in our lifetime where there's no war. No one thinks there's going to be a moment in our lifetime where there's no murder. No one thinks there's going to be a moment in our lifetime where there's no rape, where we just figure it out. Like, I'm pretty confident if it was just the three of us forever, no one would rape anybody, no one would murder
just
anybody.
The three of us?
Just the three of us.
I sure hope not.
But you know what I'm saying?
Because I'm probably the victim here.
But you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
what number of people how many people do they have to be before one of those things becomes a possibility? Like, what if you have a group of close friends, a group of close friends who are good communicators and good, honest, healthy, friendly people can live together. And, you know, whatever issues you might have with someone not doing the dishes or someone forgetting to put back your lawnmower or whatever the fuck it is, you could work that out. It's no big deal. Like, what's the number of people?
150.
Okay.
That's right. Dunbar's number.
Dunbar's number, yeah.
I'm sure you've heard about that.
Yeah, I mean, that might really be it. That might really be what we're programmed for.
Well, that's where hunter-gatherer groups always splinter.
Yeah.
Or they never get beyond that. And I think that's why, because you know, a hunter-gatherer group, which is egalitarian and sharing and cooperative and all that, by necessity, right? Because that's how our ancestors survived, is by taking care of each other, mitigating risk. You need reputational damage. And if everyone doesn't know everyone, reputational damage is no longer effective. So if let's say you go and you're a good hunter and you kill an antelope and then you don't share it, and you just keep it for yourself, that's not going to go over real well with a hunter-gatherer group. You're going to be ridiculed, chastised, maybe expelled from the group, maybe have a hunting accident and die, because that hoarding, selfish behavior is extremely taboo in a hunter-gatherer society. Whereas, you know, you look at our society where reputational damage is no longer functional outside of your group of friends. As long as you're good to your friends, your golfing buddies, you can screw the rest of the world. You can not pay your contractors for years,
right.
and become president.
Right.
You know, everyone in New York.
Mm-hmm.
I worked in real estate in New York in the 80s. Everyone knew who that guy was and what he was up to, and you couldn't trust him. He was full of shit, and he ripped everybody off. But that's how business works in New York. Even the company I was working for is really interesting to see how your leverage increased when you owed somebody a lot of money. You know, there's that truism: if you owe someone $5, you have a problem. If you owe them $1 million, they have a problem. Mm-hmm. You know, you really see that. But yeah, I think it's 150 is the cutoff for how many people we can keep track of. I think Dunbar's number has proved to be pretty accurate. Well,
it seems to be what we evolved to sort of be accustomed to, right?
Yeah.
That's the
neocortex. That's, you know, Dunbar was looking at the brain anatomy of different primates, and by looking at the proportion of a neocortex to the rest of the brain, he predicted the maximum social size of those primates, of each of the species.
Wow.
And that's how he came to the estimate of 150 for humans. And then they went and looked at people that they did, data collection.
That's so crazy.
Yeah.
That they can do the physical size of something like that. That there's a direct correlation, like the direct correlation between the size of a primate's testicles and the amount of promiscuous females in the area.
You've read Sex at Dawn, Joe.
Yes, I have.
Finally.
I read it a long time ago, man. I'm thinking
I might do I did the audiobook of Civilized to Death, which I really enjoyed that process. I'm thinking I might do a 10th anniversary director's cut audiobook of Sex at Dawn.
Did you do the audio version?
No.
Who did?
Actors.
Oh, yuck.
Yeah.
Oh, yuck. My
Yeah.
friend Steve Ranella, he wrote a book on buffalo, the American buffalo, just the history of buffalo in this country. And someone else wrote it, and he finally got the rights back, and he did it himself now.
Yeah.
But it just
that's what I'm going to do.
killed him because the person who read it was like a soap opera actor.
Right.
Had no connection to the material at all.
And in Sex at Dawn, there are a lot of jokes and sort of wry asides and stuff. And the people who read it, they don't get it. They didn't get the humor. So it's just the straight ahead. It's as if someone took your comedy material and just read it in a monotone. It's like,
that's called
come on,
criticizing me in a blog. That's what they do. That's what they do when someone takes it and just puts it in quotes like that.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, there's no delivery there.
Yeah.
There's no voice. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And I think I'm going to, I don't know if Steve did this or not, but I think I'm going to, as I said, a director's cut. So I'll when I read a paragraph that reminds me of something or, what I thought when I wrote that or, my dad really wanted me to include that phrase or, whatever little asides. So there'll be some commentary as well, I think.
Yeah, that's a good move.
Yeah.
David Goggins had a really interesting way he did his. He did his book where he actually didn't read it. He had a friend read it. And then in between paragraphs, they discussed all the different events that happened that he talked about. And he gave other details that weren't in the book.
Right.
So the audiobook is essentially like an audiobook / podcast.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're not just getting a reading of the book, you're getting bonus material as well. Yeah.
It's really good. It's really good. There's no rules with that kind of stuff. It's your book.
Right.
You can kind of do whatever you want. And you could even talk about how you feel now about that chapter.
Sure.
You could always
what
do
I would
that.
change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or how you feel about the material itself and how you interact with the facts that you uncovered versus before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't listen to audiobooks much, but in the van last summer I listened to the Keith Richards autobiography.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it was interesting. He reads like the beginning, and then this actor who sounds like him, has the same accent, reads most of it, and then Johnny Depp reads a couple of chapters, and then Keith comes back at the end.
Well, that was one of the weird things about Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas was Johnny Depp reading Hunter Thompson, and then in a way, honestly, did a better job of reading Hunter Thompson than Hunter Thompson has done reading Hunter Thompson.
Yeah.
There's that famous speech about being there at the end of the 60s and watching the waves pull back.
Sure.
That?
It crested at the Rocky Mountains and then rolled back into the sea. Yeah.
That's a fantastic speech, but the way Johnny Depp said it was better.
Yeah.
Have
you ever seen Breakfast with Hunter?
Yes.
Do you remember he freaks out about that particular passage? Because who was it, Alex?
Well, they were going to animate it.
They were going to animate it. Yeah, and he fucking pulls out the gun and kicks him off the property and totally loses his shit. You're going to take the best thing I've ever written and make it a fucking cartoon.
It's amazing.
Yeah,
that guy used to go off. He was so crazy.
Did you ever meet him?
No, I'm angry. Angry that I never met him.
Yeah. Yeah,
I would have loved to have met him.
Yeah, and there were probably a few years there where
I could have.
You could have. Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah.
There's a few people. Dick Gregory, he's one that I really wish I met. I would have loved to talk to him about what it was like to show the Kennedy assassination footage on Geraldo Rivera like 10 plus years after the fact. The Zapruder film.
Yeah.
He introduces Zapruder film to the world.
Really?
Yeah.
Dick Gregory's like a comedian. A black
activist.
Comedian.
/activist.
Right. Yeah. I remember him.
Yeah, he brought the Zapruder film to Geraldo Rivera, and they played the Kennedy assassination on television.
Oh, shit. It hadn't been seen publicly.
No, not only had it not been seen publicly, I believe Time Magazine owned it. I think they bought the rights to it. See if that's true. And they shelved it for, I want to say, 12 years. It was like 75 when it aired on television, somewhere in that range. And, the assassination was 63.
Was it 63? Yeah,
I think it was 63.
Yeah. I was born in 62. Yeah, I guess it was right after I was born.
And so no one had seen his head go back into the left until that footage. And then people were like, wait, what the
Really?
Which doesn't necessarily...
So how did Dick Gregory get the rights?
I do not remember.
Huh.
I think... I don't remember.
Who else? Have you met Werner Herzog?
I've not.
Are you into
I'd love
him?
To. Yes.
He's
yes.
He's
Grizzly
a character.
Man is one of my all-time favorite movies.
Me too.
It's one of the best unintentional comedies ever, but I don't think it's particularly unintentional. There's a fucking moment in that film where when the sheriff's talking about like the body and they carrying the body off in bags.
Yeah.
He's like, what did you think? Well, first time I heard about it, I thought he was retarded. And then the kid just has a smash cut to the sheriff's face, and I'm fucking howling.
Yeah.
I'm howling laughing. And I'm like, this guy did this on purpose. Like, there's so many cuts in this movie that are so humorous.
Yeah.
I gotta think that. And Werner Herzog, have you ever heard him on Eric Weinstein's podcast?
No.
Brilliant guy.
Oh,
really,
yeah. He's
really interesting, intense guy.
and very dark sense of humor.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's why I was like, this motherfucker did this on purpose.
Yeah.
He made this a comedy.
So do you think that, what was the name of the character? Timothy Treadwell?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
When I watched that movie, my feeling was this guy is closeted gay dude.
100%.
Yeah, you felt
no
that
question.
too. Okay.
He brings up, if I was gay, it would be easy, but I'm not gay.
Right.
That's what he says. Because you say, why can't I find a girl? He's like walking through the woods with this like lispy gay way of talking.
Yeah.
And he's talking to for people who don't know what this documentary is about, it's about a guy named Timothy Treadwell. And Timothy Treadwell was, well, I guess you could say he was a bear expert, but not really. Because the real bear experts were like, this guy doesn't know what the fuck he's doing.
Yeah.
He should get out of there.
Yeah.
Like, what he's doing is he doesn't need to protect these bears. He's pretending that he's protecting these bears. And he's living with them. I think there was a certain element of it that was suicide by bear.
Yeah.
I really do. And he was walking through the woods holding this camcorder, getting film, going, if I was gay, it would be so easy.
Right,
but
talking
I'm
to the
not gay.
camcorder
Yeah.
as his only friend because
Yeah.
he was out there alone for
Months at a time.
every summer.
But no one who's not gay says, well, if I was gay, it would be really easy. Unless
I've
you're,
said that a lot, Joe.
But unless you're being funny with a friend.
Yeah.
Like, well, if I was gay, I would just hook up with some dudes.
Right.
But he's saying it like, why can't I find a girl? If I was gay, it'd be so easy. No, it wouldn't. You're still living in the woods with monsters. You're going to get a bunch of gay guys. Gay guys, they want to be in Boys Town. Okay?
I think they should remake the movie in a bear bar on Broadway.
That would be hilarious. That would be hilarious.
Grizzly Man.
Instead of doing it with the forest and actual grizzly
Right.
bears.
In the
have
West
it with-
Village.
Yeah. If I was gay, it'd be easy. There's bears everywhere.
I went to a bear bar with Andrew Sullivan and Dan Savage.
There's actually a bear bar.
Oh, there are lots of bear bars.
They call them bear bars?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
yeah.
nice.
And for people who don't know what we're talking about, bears are big, hairy
Gay guys.
gay guys.
Think Tom Segura and Bert Kreischer. they do a podcast
Exactly.
called Two Bears, One Cave.
Oh, do they?
Yes.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, but neither one of them is gay. But
Yeah,
beside the point.
But if they were gay, they'd be bears. Yeah. I don't know. Bears.
Dan Savage is a trip. I've had him on the podcast.
Yeah.
before.
Yeah, I know. I saw that. That was interesting.
He's an interesting guy.
He's super smart
Yes.
and funny as shit. And
Yeah.
and he's armed with nothing but a sense of humor and a great intellect and a big heart.
And honesty.
Yeah. He's changed the world. He's saved who knows how many lives. You know, he's beautiful. I really like Dan a lot.
Yeah, when someone can just be themselves. Again, that's who he is. And
Timothy Treadwell, if he had listened to Dan Savage, everything would be different.
Well, that leap, man, that coming out leap, fuck, it's got to be so hard for people. I know several guys that are closeted, and it's torturous.
Yeah.
Torturous to see. And one of them, I've talked to him. I was like, just come out, man. No one gives a fuck. We don't care.
Yeah.
No one cares. It'll be a giant relief.
Yeah.
Just they worry about, especially actors.
Yeah.
They worry about their careers.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when your career is more important than the integrity of yourself.
But I don't think it hurts. I don't believe it.
Yeah.
I don't believe it. The only thing that would hurt with the actors is leading man.
Yeah, Rock
roles.
Hudson kind of guy.
Yeah, leading. That's one thing that's fucking real. Like if you're Like, I don't know if Tom Cruise is gay, but that's always been this stupid rumor, right? Let's assume it's true.
Yeah.
If he did come out of the closet, man, nobody wants to go see a movie where he's the leading man. He's got a wife and kids. You'd be like, that guy's sucking dick. Like, he would never buy into it. That's like a gay woman, like Jodie Foster, could easily play a straight woman in a movie, and no one would care. It'd be fine. But when a gay, that is the fucking glass ceiling in Hollywood. It's one of them, right? When a gay man comes out of the closet, those roles, John Travolta or whatever it is, whoever it would be, I don't know if he's gay either, but if he was, that's where the buck stops. You cannot be the leading man who's the married guy with kids, or the hot man who's in a sexual relationship with a woman. If we know that you're having sex with men,
but then it's funny, right? We can watch straight actors pretend to be gay, like Brokeback Mountain. That's no problem. No problem. Yeah, very strange.
Yeah, that's one of the last open prejudices that we all accept because no one's been able to bridge that gap. Except, what's that dude's name? That fucking, he's got 3 names. Little skinny guy. Used to be on a sitcom, How I Met Your Mother.
Neil Patrick Harris.
Yeah, that guy. Doogie Howser. Yeah, that guy. He's openly gay. And didn't he play a womanizer on a sitcom?
I think on How I Met Your Mother. I think I've never watched it,
but the thing about sitcoms is they're like plays. Like those kind of sitcoms in front of an audience, they're horseshit. It's like it's not like a movie. It's horseshit. It's horseshit. Everyone knows it's horseshit.
Anything with a laugh track, I'm very suspicious, or studio audience.
Like Happy Days. Like I love Henry Winkler, but the Fonz.
Yeah,
right? That's horseshit.
No, wait, is Henry Winkler gay?
No, I don't think so. Maybe.
I always assumed he was. Because he was so overcompensating with the Fonz.
I think that was the character. You meet him in real life, he is the nicest guy I've ever met.
Yeah, he's in Barry now, right? He's
is he?
Yeah, he plays an acting coach in Barry. I haven't seen it. I hear it's great.
I've never seen Barry. He's a fly fisherman. He wrote a book on fly fishing, and I think the book's called "I Never Met an Idiot on the River," because there's something about fly fishing. Fly fishing is a very weird pursuit. Because a lot of it is catch and release. Yeah. Which, as a person who enjoys the outdoors and enjoys eating fish that I catch, I'm very torn on that activity, that catch and release activity. I know it's fun, and I have done it. I get it. But it's weird. It's weird. You're sticking a hook through an animal's face.
It traumatizes the fish. It's got to.
How
many of them die?
Well, fly fishing, very few, because you're dealing with barbless hooks for the most part. So it just goes into this cartilage in their mouth they don't really feel, and then allegedly don't really feel. I don't know if they feel it. And then, they pull it out and they're fine. But there's some catch and release, especially with 3-pronged barbed hooks where the animals definitely die. They get caught in their gills and they start bleeding from their gills, and then you have to release them anyway because, in some places the regulation is catch and release. Yeah. But people love doing it. They find peace, like drifting a fly past this area where the fish is lying dormant, and then you pull the fly, and then the fish grabs it, and then you got him. Oh, boy. But you're tapping into this sort of primal reward system that you have in your DNA that makes you want to catch these fish.
But it gives you a reason to be out by the river, out in the morning. Normally it's morning or dusk when the flies are landing. I think I've been hunting since the last time you and I spoke. Yeah, bow hunting.
You went bow hunting?
Yeah, on Hawaii, Big Island.
Oh,
I actually went on 2 trips.
Didn't you go with Kyle Kingsbury and Ben Greenfield and all those guys?
That was a deer, Axis deer trip to Molokai.
You have a bow?
I do.
How often do you practice?
Since I went hunting, not much. But before I went, every day. Yeah, I was into it.
Did you have a coach?
Nope. I had some friends who, helped me out, and I watched some, Cam, your buddy.
Cam Harris.
Yeah, I watched some of his videos. But it was an interesting experience. So first I went on that trip with, Peter Attia and Ben Greenfield, all these podcast human optimization
who
guys.
Who set that whole thing up?
My buddy Kyle Tierman, who's a big wave surfer.
Okay.
He spends a lot of time in Hawaii, and he knows a lot of people there. Jeff Healy, I think, big surfer dude. Anyway, so he knew all these people, and I guess Aubrey and those guys sort of asked him to hook them up with a trip. And so he put it all together, and then at the last minute, I think Aubrey couldn't go, I think because you were coming down to Austin, and he wanted to coordinate with you or something. So they said, yo, Chris, if you want to go, it's all paid for. And I'm like, helicopters, Hawaii? Fuck yeah.
So did you have to practice leading up to that, or were you already shooting a bow?
I was already shooting because we had, Kyle Tierman and I had already planned a trip for like 3 weeks after that. So I was already practicing for that, which was going to be a pig hunting trip on the Big Island. But then I went on this deer thing. But mainly I went on the deer thing just because it was an opportunity to fly around in helicopters and see Molokai, which is amazing.
Right.
But I didn't hunt on that because I didn't honestly, I didn't want to hurt anything. I wanted
Didn't
to
feel like you were competent enough with it,
No,
or you didn't want to do it at all?
Well, and the deer are farther away, and they're much harder. They're much more aware, and like stalking them is a lot harder. And so I just basically hung out and had a good time.
They're so hard.
Yeah.
They're so that animal, axis deer, is an animal that evolved to get away from tigers.
Right.
They're the fastest thing I've ever hunted by far.
Super alert.
I hunted them with Cam Haynes and
on Molokai?
No, on Lanai and John Dudley just before you guys went.
Right.
And we were there between the time we were there and when we were there the last spring. There was 150 hunters that went there to bow hunt. One was successful.
Really?
Everyone else pulled out a rifle.
Huh.
Everyone else was like, fuck this. Because you can't get anywhere near those goddamn things without them jumping. But if you can get your stalking skills down where you can sneak up on an axis deer and kill one with a bow, holy shit. That's black belt level stuff.
Well, the dudes I were with, Peter Attia, he got 2 or 3, I remember.
He's very, very, very into it. He's a super, super smart guy.
Yeah, he is. He's cool. I enjoyed hanging with all those dudes. But then the next, 3 weeks later, we went, Kyle and me and Simon Rex. I don't know if you know him. He's a actor
slash comedian.
Yeah.
Dirt Nasty
rapper. Yeah, he's a good friend of mine. Anyway, we went on this pig hunting trip, and that was interesting. That was, I wanted to have the experience because I'd never hunted. I'd never killed anything, and I eat meat, so I felt like I have this, responsibility to have the experience and confront it and all that. And I was actually the first of our group to kill a pig. And it was strange. I didn't feel sad or traumatized. I felt heightened awareness, but I think I might hunt again. I'm moving to Colorado. I just bought land in Colorado.
Oh, yeah? What part?
Sort of south central. It's a tiny little town. It's a interesting area there. But anyway, there's a lot of elk hunting there. And I'll probably do some elk hunting with local people. You
going to do it with a bow again?
No, I think I'll use a rifle.
Yeah.
Because
I think that's the way to go. If you're not going to be completely obsessed and do it every day.
I'm not.
Yeah.
Because I don't do that.
Yeah.
And also, I don't... the thing about a bow is, and maybe this is what you're implying here, if you're not really good, the chances of an elk running off or a pig running off with an arrow in its ass and dying a slow, horrible death is quite high. If you hit him with a rifle, high-powered rifle with a scope, and you're in the right range.
You can still wound them, but you're much more competent with a rifle. Yeah. And it's a better meat gathering tool.
Right.
It's a good way to talk it, to describe it. And Colorado has, I think, twice as many elk as any other state in the country. Yeah. Huh. Colorado is one of the best places in the world to elk hunt. Yeah. So that's a good spot if you're looking.
And also, you take an elk, that's a lot of meat. I shot this pig. It was about, it was a yearling, I think. It's not a lot of meat on a pig that size.
No.
So, it was interesting.
Are you living in this van? Are you?
No, I have an
a
apartment.
place
I still have an apartment in LA, but I'm about to give it up, I think.
just to be a nomad?
Yeah, because I was in the van all 5 months, and it's like, okay, I'm paying rent to what? Like to leave my clothes there, basically.
Right.
Like I don't really need to be doing that.
No, I admire that sort of nomad sense of life. I admire. I don't ever see myself doing it.
Yeah.
But there's a romantic aspect to it that's undeniable.
Well, your life's different, man. You have kids. You know, you have a life here that's really you've built over a lot of time. You know, I just got here a few years ago.
You're kind of a prisoner to that, though, in a certain way. You're a prisoner to all your obligations. There's
oh, sure.
That's one of the things that's romantic about this nomadic thing that you're doing.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, I have to come here. I have a certain amount of podcasts I have to do a week.
But you don't, Joe. You don't.
I don't.
I mean, that's. Right. I was thinking that we're talking about the closeted gay actors. What is money worth if you can't buy your freedom with it? Mm-hmm. Your freedom to be who you are, right? As a closeted gay person, right? Let's say. What is it good for? I mean, that's the first thing.
The closeted gay folks, the real problem is like the feeling that you're going to be rejected if you come out. I think that's entirely different than someone who gets wrapped up in jobs. Like one of the things that I could say about the jobs that I have is that I really do enjoy them. Like I'm enjoying this conversation. I love talking to people.
Yeah.
I love doing stand-up. Love it. And I still enjoy doing the UFC. Those are my 3 jobs. Yeah. And I don't do the UFC as much as I used to.
Would you do them all if you were making $100,000 a year total?
I mean, I certainly obviously could live off $100,000 a year.
Yeah.
I mean, if that's what I made a year.
So the money isn't what makes them fun.
No.
It's the thing itself.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, that's what's made the money. What's made the money is I think, right? I think it's my enjoyment of the things.
Right.
That's made them interesting. Like one of the things about podcasts, and I think there's a parallel in stand-up, is that genuine enthusiasm, like real legitimate enthusiasm, is contagious.
Yeah.
And if you're genuinely interested in talking to people and genuinely curious, it's interesting to listen to.
Right. And,
you know, you do your best to get out of your own way, and you do your best. I do my best to not be annoying. And I fuck up sometimes. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I'm a human being, and I've done.
But you cop to it when you do, which I think is another thing that's endearing. And I mean, you're a really interesting case, as I'm sure you know. And I've watched you even since I've known you. Like your profile has moved much closer to mainstream American, popular. You were mentioned on fucking Saturday Night Live a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, weird.
Right?
Yeah.
And there's some article about Joe, where was it, in Harper's or the New Yorker, or something recently that I read, like super mainstream. But you're really interesting because you're like this man's man, but you're also vulnerable. You're also like, you admit when you fuck up. Like you had someone, the Twitter guy on, and you're like,
Jack Dorsey.
I wasn't prepared. I fucked it up, and you had him back, and that's cool. It's probably, I don't know, is it hard for you to maintain that kind of humility when you're getting all this pressure and opportunities and all this stuff coming at you?
No, I don't think so. No, I think that's just being honest. I think if I fucked up and I stopped admitting that I was fucking up, it would all go off the rails. There's no way I couldn't maintain who I am. I would be thinking about it all the time.
Right.
You'd be like
back to the closeted gay dude.
You'd be
right?
closeted. You'd be a bullshit artist. You'd just be
exactly.
Yeah, you'd just be pretending you're cooler than you are. I think part of being a human being is making mistakes. It's a messy thing to be a person, And I mean, I'm also big on forgiveness. And I think you have to be, because human beings are fallible, and like we're saying, we vary from moment to the next. And to try to hold someone to who they were 6 months ago or a year ago or 5 years ago, or what they said or what they did, and not accept it and hold a grudge, to me that's crazy. I don't like. Do you want people to do that to you? That's what kind of life is that? What kind of civilization are we creating where people hold grudges and don't forgive people for things of the past? But you also have to be able to forgive yourself. I struggle with that way more,
That's it.
believe it or not, than I struggle with forgiving other people.
Right.
I can forgive other people pretty easy for whatever reason. I've always been able to. I've always been able to.
So what's the difference?
I'm super self-critical, and I have definitely some sort of obsessive compulsive disorder that allows me to get really good at things because I obsess.
Right.
It's probably unhealthy, but I manage it.
Yeah.
But like the mania that goes on in my mind, I just figured out a way to put it to use.
Right.
It's like, okay, I got this fucking engine. Like, what do I stick it on? Let me stick a thing in there, and I could drill a hole with that instead of just having it going, "Wah," which a lot of people do. A lot of people don't find a focus for whatever mania they have going on in their mind. So I've found various things. That's one of the reasons why I don't ever see myself not doing anything. I don't have enough time. That's my issue. There's a lot of things that I love to do that I just don't have the time for.
Do you feel like how old are you?
52.
Do you feel like you're sort of figuring things out?
Always. Yeah.
I mean, like, I have this sense, 57, I have this sense that I don't know, like I finally learned to dance and the party's almost over.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
That's a great way to say it. That's hilarious.
It's like I'm finally figuring this shit out, and I'm almost 60.
Well, I remember when I was like 26, 25, and when I first came out here, I remember thinking, by the time I'm 52, I'll fucking everything solved. There's arbitrary numbers that we have in our head of who you should be at 50 or 60 or whatever the number is. And you're just alive, man. You're just alive. And while you're alive, you better forget about all those numbers.
I remember thinking, like, the year 2000, when the year 2000 comes, like, what's that going to be like?
Right.
Wow, I'm going to be so old. And
dude, it's almost 2020.
I know.
It's going to be 2020 in a couple of months. That's crazy. That is such a nutty number. That's so crazy.
Yeah, well, that's why I love living in the van, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, I've, so much has since you and I said, I don't know, it's a year or so since we've seen each other.
Yeah.
My dad's died. I'm living in the van. Like, this book's come out. Like, all this stuff's happening.
Mm-hmm.
But I've spent most of the time sitting by a campfire looking at the stars,
It's fucking the times that I get outside, like when I elk hunt every year, and I spend time, particularly in Utah, in the mountains, the place that we go. It's cleansing in a way that is so hard to describe. It's so hard to describe what it's like just to be out there in the woods and be in the forest and be with the wild animals, and it's
You're home.
Yeah.
And that's what this book's about. And I don't mean to push the conversation to the book, but that's why I wrote the book. Like, we are designed by evolution
civilized
to
death,
live
available now
available at
all your local
bookstores
bookstores
near you
and Amazon and all that other stuff.
We're designed to live in that world.
Yes.
So that's why it feels so good. That's why golf courses look the way they do. Mm-hmm. Even fucking, old executives love being out there on the grass and the water and the undulating hills.
Yeah.
It's the African savanna.
Wow. I know, even when it's manicured, right? It still feels good. It still feels good to be connected to nature. It feels good to be on a lake.
Yeah.
Lakes are the best, man. To be able to sit on the dock of a lake, like, there's a feeling of like, you look out, you see trees. Have you ever been to Coeur d'Alene?
Yeah, I was there this summer.
I haven't, but a friend of mine has a house there, and I saw a picture of the water, and like you look all the way down, like 100 feet deep.
Yeah.
Down, you see the bottom, like it's like a piece of glass.
Yeah.
This is bananas.
Yeah, I didn't take a shower for about 3 months.
You must have smelled amazing.
I smelled great because every morning I jumped in a river.
Oh.
It was,
That
every
counts.
morning. Yeah.
That counts, though.
Oh, yeah.
Did you use soap or
No,
no?
I haven't used soap in a decade.
Oh, Jesus. But you smell okay. How weird.
Yeah. My microbiome is working.
Well,
it's fine.
there's articles
No
that have been written
shampoo.
about that by people that say you shouldn't use soap.
Yeah. No, a lot of them, because you're disrupting your microbiome.
Yeah.
You don't, I use deodorant.
There's Coeur d'Alene.
Yeah. Sandpoint's really nice, too. Idaho's great.
Idaho's gorgeous. I love Boise.
Yeah,
Fucking
and Montana, Western
amazing.
Montana.
Oh,
is
yeah, man.
Insane.
Yeah. Look how pretty that is, though. God damn that lake. And when you have a boat on a lake, it's like you have a car, but there's no road. Everything is a road. It's all flat.
Yeah.
So you can go wherever the fuck you want.
Same
You have
thing with
freedom.
airplanes.
Oh,
It's
yeah, well,
amazing what you can do.
three-dimensional. That's even crazier.
You
Yeah.
into flying?
Well, my friend Bill he has a helicopter license.
Oh, yeah.
And he took
Oh,
me up
Bill
in-
Burr. Yeah.
Yeah. He took me around his helicopter.
That's
and
pretty
I thought
wild.
about that. I was like, that might be a cool thing to get into. But
That's hard.
he spent a lot of time learning how to fly.
And it's expensive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But a single engine airplane, you can, $100,000, you get a decent single engine airplane, and you can go wherever you want. My uncle has an amphibious plane, so he lands on lakes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and he used to.
Could he land on ground too?
Yeah, so that's amphibious. So it has wheels and floats.
Does you have to switch things up, or
Yeah.
So you have to
You just-
change out the.
No, you just push a button, the wheels retract.
Oh no shit!
Yeah. He forgot once and flipped
it.
So you don't want to forget.
How many people fly drunk?
Yeah.
I bet they do.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, if the weather's good.
Wasn't that like a Patrick Swayze thing, like before he kicked the bucket? What are you laughing about? What are you laughing at? You laughing about something? Huh? Harrison Ford? Oh, that's right.
Right. Was he drunk?
Harrison Ford might have been. Might have been.
I don't know.
Might have been. Or maybe he's an old dude. Old dudes look drunk all the time. You know?
And babies.
Yeah. Wait, that's a great way to achieve privacy too, right? If you're a guy like Harrison Ford, I mean, that guy, it must be hard for that guy to go anywhere.
Yeah.
Right? It's probably real hard for him to go to a regular airport.
Yeah. Yeah. I've got the perfect amount of fame. I was thinking about this today on the airplane flying down from Portland. I was in the front row, so I had extra leg room, but I wasn't in business class. That's where I am in fame. I want to stay right there. I got a little extra egg room.
Right. You can be normal, stretch your legs out. But
some people recognize me, but they all like me. If you don't like me, you don't know who the hell I am.
That's nice.
Yeah. So you're at a different level. There are people who recognize you who are like, yeah, fuck that guy, Joe. Me, nothing. I mean, you get mostly love, I'm
though,
sure.
most people are nice. Yeah. Even people that don't like you, they don't really know you.
Right.
If they knew you.
It's some image they have.
I'm nice. If you know me or you meet me, I guarantee we're probably going to get along.
Yeah.
And if we don't, I'm going to work hard to make it not uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It's just the thing about people liking people and not liking people. A lot of it is this severely limited way of communicating, especially when it's one way, right? If you're putting out a podcast or you're putting out books and they're reading your shit, but they don't get to interact at all, that builds resentment. There's a lot of weird resentment that people develop when they listen to you,
right?
And they don't get to interact. Especially someone like me, who's always talking shit, right? I talk shit for a living, basically, and I'm always giving my opinions. And some people have maybe even a strong point that I probably even agree with them, and they don't get to say anything. So that they're sitting at home listening, like, "Fuck this guy! I'm tired of his bull."
Yeah, you occupy space in their lives.
Yes,
but
they don't get to interact.
You owe them something.
Yes,
yeah,
yes,
and that makes sense.
Yes,
I mean,
makes sense.
Yeah,
it's a crude way of communicating.
Yeah,
these one-way methods of communication are very crude.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I was thinking my buddy Simon and I were in a restaurant in Venice, and the woman recognized me and like, "Oh, I love your podcast," and gave me your number, and I was like, "Yeah, I'll give her a call sometime." And Simon's like, "Dude, I would never do that. You never, interact with your fans, And then I was like, "No, but Simon, you don't get it. She actually knows me, like." In Simon's case, like he was in Scary Movie 3, 4, 5. He was he plays these characters. So when people are like, "Yo, Simon," like they don't know him.
Right.
He's the face they recognize, but they don't know the dude.
Right.
So it's a different kind of thing. I really like the van trips, the Vanthropology thing. I'll say, okay, I'm going to be in Boise at this beer pub Thursday at 8, and people show up. 50, 100 people show up.
Really?
Oh yeah. But it's mainly so they can meet each other.
So when you do this, do you do live shows?
No.
Do you do live shows?
I've never done a live show. I've done like Duncan's a couple times with him.
Okay.
We did the, a couple years ago, we did the keynote at the Float Conference in Portland.
That's hilarious.
That was a good audience.
That's a tuned in group of people, right?
But I don't do the shows. I just
keynote at a float conference
with Duncan. Yeah, it was great.
Oh my God, that sounds perfect.
Yeah.
Oh, that's hilarious.
But it's really just to build community. That's what I want to do. I want them to meet each other because they're all beautiful weirdos.
Right.
And
hopefully.
Yeah, they are. I've never met anyone through the podcast that I didn't really actually like.
What kind of numbers do you get? Like, what kind of downloads? How many downloads?
You know, it's hard to know, but probably 50,000 an episode.
That's perfect.
Something like that.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
That's a good number.
Between 50 and 100. Like, you know, when you and Duncan were on, when we were doing the shrimp parade thing, it would, you know, peak because it's you guys.
Do you use advertising? And
I didn't. For 5 years, it was listener supported
Patreon
only.
type deal?
Yeah. And then this friend of mine who has this company, Mudwater, he was sort of launching that, and he was like, "Dude, I want to advertise on your podcast." I'm like, "Yeah, I love you, buddy, but I don't do that." And then he sent me an email email chain where he was negotiating with another podcast that has roughly the same audience numbers as mine, and I was like, "Really? I'm leaving that much on the table? Fuck!" So I started. At this point, I only do ads for companies that I really like and that I use their stuff. So I don't do, you know, I don't have a broker or any of that stuff.
Yeah, I think the subscription model, like when people are paying like a paywall, the problem is the growth is so limited. So then you could either just do it for free and put it out there and maybe just sell books or sell T-shirts, or, you know, in my case, tickets to shows. That would work.
Right.
I'm going to be in Cleveland this weekend and Detroit.
Nice.
Ladies and gentlemen.
What's it like to play Detroit? Is Detroit coming back?
I love Detroit. I love Detroit. They're good people. They're fun people. They're happy you're there.
Yeah.
Detroit is not necessarily coming back to where it used to be. It's a bit like, what is a comeback?
Right.
You know,
it's never going to be an auto industry.
When you get back in shape and you're 70, guess what? You're never going to be who you were when you were 20.
Right.
You know, it's never going to be what it was.
Yeah.
I mean, it was the richest city in America at one point in time, right?
Yeah.
You know, during the peak of automobile production.
Right.
I believe it was one of the richest cities in America. And it's a far cry from that now. And it's strange when you drive through the town and you see these boarded up buildings and factories with all their broken windows, and just you could buy a house for like $100. Like it's weird. It's weird. But then there's also a lot of like craft restaurants and these businesses that are building up, and these hippies that have kind of moved in, and you know, they're kind of, you know, making stuff there, and there's a lot of cool shit.
It's cheap enough to get in and do stuff.
Yeah. Which is, you know, if you're a young person growing up there, you know, like you can make something happen. And with the internet, your ability to establish a business and your ability to, you know, to actually get something off the ground, it's so much different than it ever has been before.
Yeah.
And people love a good comeback story. So Detroit, like a bunch of Detroit-made things could be exciting for people. Like, yeah, look at that. Detroit, I'll buy that. Yeah, it's Detroit-made. You know, there's a company called Shinola. Have you ever heard of them?
Yeah, the watches. Right?
Really nice watches, American-made watches. They make a bunch of other stuff too, like bags, leather goods, things along those lines. But one of the things they proudly say is made in Detroit. And they make cool shit, you know, so there's something to that, you know. But the place I'm working at is the Fox Theater, and it's just like really fucking cool old theater. And what's interesting, there's columns, and it was back when people used to be able to smoke. They smoked in there so much that all the columns are like, they have that orangey nicotine sort of tint to them. But one of the columns was replaced. So this one column is like clear and smooth and clean, and the other ones are like fucking orangey. Like it seems like you could go up to them with a butter knife and just scrape the nicotine off of them, you know. But it's a beautiful old building that was made way, way, way back in the day. And they said that when it was first made, it was one of the only buildings in Detroit that had air conditioning. So people would go to see movies there, and they would pay to see movies just so they could fall asleep. They'd go in there and just the cool air, and they'd fall asleep during the summer because, you know, people would just be sweltering in the heat of the summer.
I've done that in Bangkok.
Yeah?
Just gone to a cinema just to get out of the heat.
Nice. I fucking love Thailand, man.
Oh, yeah.
I really enjoyed Thailand when I was
You went
there.
recently.
Yeah, last summer. It's like people are so nice.
Food's great.
Amazing.
It's the one country I'm comfortable recommending to just about anyone.
Yeah.
Because the sort of confluence of convenience and safety and ease, and it's still exotic and really interesting and very foreign. You know, I wouldn't recommend India to everyone or Indonesia, but Thailand is like, whatever your tolerance is, you'll find something there that works for you.
Yeah, I know a lot of fighters who've gone there for camps for training camps and wound up either moving there or starting camps there or starting gyms there. They just love it so much. I feel like it's part of their home.
Yeah, I've been there a lot, probably 10 times over the years.
Yeah, it's real cheap too. In terms of like food, eating, lodging.
The best food in the world, as far as I'm concerned. Thai food.
I love spicy food, so to me it's excellent.
And it's balanced. It's interesting. It's not just like blast your face off spice. It's really nice. Did you go to Laos at all?
No.
That's an interesting place. Really good. Yeah.
I heard Vietnam's amazing.
You know,
that was Bourdain's one of his favorite places.
Yeah, he loved it. I know. I was there for 3 months in Vietnam. I didn't dig it that much. There's some really beautiful places, but I was traveling with Casilda, my wife, who's dark-skinned, and there's a lot of racism. She got harassed a lot because everyone assumed that she was a local, and with me makes her a prostitute, and dark skin makes her low class. So there was a lot. A dude punched her. Like she was
punched her?
Yeah, an adolescent kid ran up. We were on a motorbike in this rice paddies, and this kid just ran up and punched her in the back and then ran off.
Whoa.
Yeah.
A young kid?
Yeah, like 15 or so. Yeah, it was pretty heavy. She got like physically accosted 3 times in Vietnam.
How long were you there?
3 months.
Fuck.
Yeah. Yeah. So I didn't dig Vietnam that much. And then we got to Laos, and there was like it's a tough country. They've had shitstorm been going on there since the 40s, or even before that, the French occupation and all that. So I'm not blaming anyone.
Isn't that a big part of the heroin trade, Laos as well?
It was during the Vietnam War. Yeah. Now I think heroin's more coming out of Afghanistan. Yeah. And Mexico. They've got the cartels.
Do you see the fucking shit that's going down?
Yeah.
There's where the government and the armies have backed down and let the cartels run everything.
Yeah. Well, they took El Chapo's son back, right?
Yes. How insane is that?
Yeah.
I mean, how is that going to play out?
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I'm going to Mexico in a couple months, but I'm going to a different part of this.
Where are you going?
Chiapas, way down south, on the border with Guatemala. I really love it down there. There's a town called San Cristobal de las Casas that's up in the Ponderosa Pines, maybe 4,000 feet. It's beautiful. The Indian villages around, and they come down on market day. And I'm going to go down there and work on another book.
What are you writing now?
It's kind of under wraps because I talked about this book way too much and it slowed me down.
Is it all about Neil Young's bed?
Can we cut that out? I can get a guy in trouble for saying that. You remember the first time I was on this show, how fucked up it was at the beginning? Were you even aware of that?
What happened?
So the first time I came on the show, I didn't know you, right? And I didn't know anything about you because I was living in Spain. And Duncan, I'd done Duncan shows. The first time I'd done I didn't know what a podcast was. I came to LA to visit my parents. I had this email from Duncan. I'm a comedian. You want to do a podcast? I'm like, sure. Never met a comedian. Don't know what a podcast is. So I did it, and we had a good time. And after, he's like, I'd love to introduce you to my friend Joe Rogan. I think you guys would get along, and you could do his podcast. I'd never heard of Joe Rogan. Right? And no insult intended. Or I lived in Spain. I never watch Fear Factor. Your whole thing was happening over here. I didn't know about it. And then I went back to Spain. I was like, okay, Duncan's friend Joe does this podcast in his living room the way Duncan does, I assumed, right? And I went back to Spain and I was talking to my buddy Voodoo, who's a tattoo artist. And he's like, so how was LA? I was like, yeah, cool. I did a podcast with this comedian. It was really fun and interesting. And he's like, oh, you should do Joe Rogan's podcast. I'm like, dude, how do you know Duncan's friend Joe? Right? It was this whole weird thing. He's like, no, dude, Joe Rogan's. So I tried to tell you that story the first time I came. And the point of the story is I'm an idiot. I don't know what's going on, right? I'm oblivious. But we got to the point where I said I didn't know you. And you were like, so what'd you do? Google me? And I was like, well, not really. And then we had to do a sound check, or you had to do an ad or something. And the story got interrupted and I felt like you thought I was trying to diss you or something.
No, I definitely didn't.
Yeah. Well, I was paranoid. Then you lit up a joint. And you passed the joint around.
Paranoia.
And I'm like, fuck, if I don't hit this joint, then I'm confirmed asshole here. So I hit the joint even though I hadn't smoked any weed in months. And it was this like California weed. I'm holding, literally, I remember, I'm holding the bottom of my chair, trying not to fall out of the chair. And we start talking, and I'm telling the story about a dude that I'd met on an airplane, and he was super into Sex at Dawn, and then we were going to do a movie together and whatever. And then his wife like took the book away from him.
Yeah.
Do you remember all that?
Yeah.
And then I was just like, oh fuck, I shouldn't have told that story. That you know, this whole I'm fucking everything up. And I said to you, can we just, because we're like 5 minutes in at this point, and I was like, Joe, can we just like cut this and start over? And you looked at me, you said, "Is live, bitch." You don't remember any of that?
I do now. Yeah, I do now.
Oh man,
I knew the guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And you were like, say his name, and then I said his name. You're like, no, he's a friend of mine, and I'm like, oh shit, I should have said his name and the whole thing. Yeah, and then I left. Casilda was here in the studio, and we left. We got in the car, and I said, man, was that as awkward as I felt? And she's like, that's the worst I've ever seen you.
You were great.
Oh shit!
Established a great friendship.
Yeah.
No issues at all.
I don't know. Maybe you enjoyed watching me suffer. I don't know.
I do enjoy watching people get too high. It's not a suffer thing. It's like I've been there. It's a commiseration thing, I think. One of the things about these sober October things is you realize like there's so many things that are so much easier when you're not high.
Yeah.
You know, it's almost like you handicap yourself by getting baked. Like, I was talking to Brian Redband about this. Like, we were talking about like how the early days of podcast, we would get obliterated before we would do the podcast. Like for years, like up until like maybe 2013 or 14. Like we would, I had a Volcano. Do you know what that is? Those vaporizers. It fills up this bag, and you take these big, deep hits off this THC vapor, and then as soon as you put the bag down and we're like, okay, let's get going. Let's start the podcast, and be like, oh my God, what have we done? And it was this feeling every time we did the podcast was, oh my God, what have we done? And you'd be in the middle of saying something, and as you were saying, you're like, what am I talking about?
Yeah.
I don't even know what I'm talking about. And then you would say, oh, no, it's not that. Like you would screw things up. You get scrambled in your head. When there's no pod at all, that never happens. Like you might make mistakes, but you know what you're talking about while you're talking about it.
Right.
Like when you're really, really high like that, there's a lot of times where you're talking about stuff where you literally don't know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. It's like that split personality thing we were talking about earlier.
Marijuana has so many pros, but it's got some cons, like everything in life, like love and good things and bad things and food and sleep. There's pros and cons. And then the cons become very evident when you're not doing it. You know, and I still think every time I do these sober October things, I always think, well, I'm going to cut back. I'm going to cut back on some weed. And I think I did last year. Like after October, I was like, I am not going to do it as much as I used to do it.
Do you drink?
Yeah, a little bit.
Like wine, beer?
I love wine with meals.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I have a nice meal, I love a glass of red wine.
Yeah.
I like a cold beer on a hot day. Love that.
Dude.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, I lived in Spain 25 years or something, and like over there, wine is like water. You have wine with breakfast. It's
really?
Oh yeah, yeah. It's just part of life. It's like olive oil. It's on everything.
That's funny because I just saw a restaurant. I was at a restaurant. I was using the bathroom, and they had a sign up that said, "A meal without wine is called breakfast." So that's Italian.
Yeah.
In Spain, they're like, fuck it.
Yeah. I mean, not everyone's doing it, but workers, like you'll see workers in a bar, they have their sandwiches and a glass of wine.
Yeah.
Some coffee with a little Baileys in it.
Nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with it if you can handle it.
Well, when I got to Spain, I remember talking to people like, wow, like alcohol's everywhere. And it's not like liquor licenses here. Like every cafe is serving wine and beer and whatever.
You can just sell it.
It's everywhere,
Yeah.
And kids are there, and it's just, it's not set aside. It's
right.
Not, and the Spanish guy said to me, in Spain, we have many alcoholics, but no drunks. And it's true. Like you don't see people puking in the street. Raging, drunken lunatics like, in the U.S.
What about like sports events, like soccer games?
They sell beer, full strength beer. I don't remember if they sell wine. And yeah, I mean, Barcelona is a special place. I don't know what it's like in Madrid. I never went to a soccer game in Madrid. But Barcelona, the Catalans are sort of dry, very self-contained people. So, there's no raging and right now there's rioting going on, but that's a political thing.
What are they rioting over?
Catalan independence. Yeah.
Didn't something happen today in Hong Kong?
I don't know.
Something.
I've been out of the loop today.
The Hong Kong protests have been going on for so long now.
Yeah.
It's months and months and months. It's like
intense. And Chile now too. In Santiago, Chile, people are rioting. Yeah, shit's getting interesting. It's heating up.
Yeah, it's a strange time to be alive. It really is. Across the board.
Yeah. I feel like we're at an inflection point.
What's going on? Hong Kong frees murder suspect whose case led to protests. Oh, interesting.
Wow. So trying to take the air out of it.
Yeah.
You ever read Joseph Campbell?
Yeah. Sure.
So the hero with 1,000 faces, his observation that societies all over the world have basically the same origin myth, which is the Odyssey, right? It's the person goes out and has all these challenges and faces their fears and learns all this stuff and then returns home with the knowledge that they've gained, and they realize that what they were looking for all the time is actually home, right?
Right.
I feel like as a species, we're at the point in that journey where we're turning toward home. That's sort of the overriding narrative of this book, that where we are now is we've learned enough that we can go back to or go toward a way of living that replicates in important ways where we came from. So you're doing it. You're hunting. You're spending time in nature. We're looking at different ways of raising kids. We're looking at paleo diet, fasting, controlling the frequency of the light that comes into our eyes at night. And there's this awareness that the way forward requires an understanding of where we came from. So I kind of feel when I'm having a good day, I feel like we're at this point now, this crisis point where these institutions, central institutions of Western civilization are collapsing around us. They're just government, Wall Street, religion. It's all just like being exposed as, incompetent and useless in many cases. But we've learned these really interesting things like birth control and passive energy and all different ways of living on the earth without destroying it. And so the sort of metaphor I use in the book is that we're going to live in zoos, right? But do we want to live in the Calcutta Zoo or the San Diego Zoo? And I feel like, what we're seeing now is we're clearly in a moment of massive global change. And I hope that what the opportunity that's being presented is to redesign human existence in a way that's more in accordance with our nature. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I'm struggling to be optimistic.
Well, I'm glad. I'm optimistic too. I always wonder if the numbers are just unmanageable.
Well, that's why I mentioned birth control.
Yeah.
Right? Like we know how to reduce global population.
But people want babies.
But why do they want babies? What's the incentive?
For women, I think there's a biological need. There's a feeling that not all women, but many women have, where they have that biological clock. It's telling them to have a baby. When they have a baby, I mean, you've seen women that have children. It's the most intense bonding, the most intense release of oxytocin, the most intense love and feeling of of connection with another living creature that I've ever experienced, that I could ever explain to someone. And it's a natural part of being a human being. It also changes who you are as a person when you are responsible for these little people, and then you have love for these little people. Like Dave Chappelle said to me once something that really resonated. He said, not only has it changed how much I love, it changed my capacity for love. And that resonated. I was like, that's what it is. Like, it changes how much changed how I feel about other people. And, you know, the experience for a man is entirely different than it is for a woman, because the woman literally creates the being in her body, right? A baby is growing inside a woman's body, and then she gives birth to it. With a man, you do what you always do. You fuck her, you know, but now you have a baby. And it's undeniable that you love the baby, you love your child, but you did not have the experience of having it grow inside your body, which I think is a connection that's no man is ever going to understand. Yeah. You're never going to, I don't think it's possible to understand what a woman experiences when she has a baby grow inside of her body. But then what it changed for me, which was a big one, was it made me look at people instead of looking at them like static beings.
You see the whole thing.
Yeah, I looked at them as like, oh, that was a baby. Yeah. Christopher Ryan used to be a baby.
That was cute, too.
Yeah, I bet you were adorable. Yeah. And now here you are, a grown-ass man. Yeah, I mean, this is something that's missing in our experience when we're not there and we don't see that little person become a big person. Yeah. You know, that's missing.
I feel like I've gained, you know, this is part of what I was referring to earlier where I said, like, you know, we're learning to dance and the party's almost over. Mm-hmm. I feel I don't have kids. I've been around kids. But I feel like when I was in my 20s, let's say, I sort of worked this out recently in relationships that I think there are three things. There's attraction, there's compatibility, and there's love. And I look at a lot of my relationships with women, they had two of those. Always love. Yeah. Sometimes the sex was great, and sometimes the compatibility was great, and very rarely all three of those. But I used to think love was a really limited, scarce experience in life. And the older I get, the more I feel like, no, I could love anybody. If I spent enough time with them and got to know them, I'd feel love for them. Right. You know, that's not hard to find. It seems it's everywhere. Mm-hmm. And when I was young, I thought it was really hard to find.
Well, for some people it is. You know, some people it's hard to find someone who loves them, and some people are burdened down. Like you're very free in the sense that because you have this unusual way of making money, and you don't have a lot of needs. You don't need a lot of material things. Some people are very burdened by these needs, you know, and they're not free, and they're confined to a job, and it's very difficult for them to meet anybody, right? And then they're also stressed out all the time because of bills and horse shit, and then work politics and work dynamics and dealing with the fucking environment of the office. Yeah. And you got a boss that's an asshole who's like, you have board meetings and shit, and everybody's got to sit there and get cancer while this asshole talks. You know,
you can
imagine
feel it.
Sitting at a board table and some guys, what we got to do with this company? You know,
that's right. The Matrix.
I need you to be here after work. I need you. You're here 9 to 5. I want to see real commitment. I want to, you know, when I'm leaving at 7. Yeah, when I'm leaving at 7, I want to see you still here working. Yeah. Like what? Yeah. No. And then it's hard to meet somebody. It's hard to find love.
Yeah, certainly you're right about that. I didn't really mean in a dating sense so much as just like a compassion sense. Okay. You know what I mean? Right. That everybody's lovable. Sure. You know, like one of the things that I love doing in my podcast is meeting somebody who's never told their story before and never even thought of their life in terms of a narrative. And in the course of the podcast, having them realize how fucking interesting they are and how interesting their life is. But I've had people like break into tears and stuff, you know, because they've never thought, like no one's ever asked. Right. You know, everybody's interesting. Everybody's got some kind of bizarre story to tell. Often they don't know it, you know. And I feel the same way. Like everybody's lovable. I'm not talking about romantic love.
I know what you're saying. Yeah.
I'm just like, yeah. You reminded me of when you're talking about seeing the full person's life. Sometimes I've looked at like women that I was with who were 35 years old, and I like see the old lady in them and be moved by that. Like you're going to be a beautiful old lady. I'll be dead. I'll
you're
be
a
gone.
weirdo.
Yeah.
I see that, and I'm like, I got to get out of here before she becomes an old lady.
Oh, I see menopause coming. Get me out of here.
I don't want anybody angry at me for shit I didn't even do.
Yeah.
No, I know what you're saying. And I mean, everybody's lovable to somebody, right? I mean, unless you're a fucking psychopath.
I had another thing I put on my list here I wanted to mention, almost as a public service, sleep apnea. I have sleep apnea. And do you know about this?
Yeah.
Do you snore?
I have a mouthpiece.
You have the CPAP machine?
No.
Oh, you do the jaw thing.
No, it's different. It holds my tongue down. It keeps my tongue from sliding back. It made a world of difference. Changed everything.
Dude, that's why I wanted to mention it. Like anybody who's got I was not breathing for 20 seconds at a time. And this woman I was sleeping with like actually counted, and she's like, dude, like you're choking, you're suffocating.
Yeah.
So I went and got a test. It's super easy. You take it home and hook this thing in your finger and all that. And they told me, I think it was like 25 episodes per hour is considered severe. I had 74. Every minute I was suffocating to the point where I sort of woke up and like my throat tissue, the muscles contract so you can breathe again. So you're like always at the surface. I got one of those machines, dude. I'm like sleeping again. I'm dreaming. It's fantastic.
Now, do you have a hard time putting that thing in your mouth?
No, it's no problem. It's like scuba diving. You got a regulator, I mean, you have the full face one that goes over your nose and your mouth if you tend to breathe through your mouth, or they have them that just go over your nose.
Which one do you have?
I have both. I started because I used the nose one, and then I was breathing through my mouth, and that's all weird. So then I got the big one. But after a month with that, now I just use the nose one.
Now that pumps air, right?
What it does is it creates air pressure, but just very it's adjustable. It adjusts based on your reaction to it. And so when you are when you're breathing, the air pressure keeps the passages open. So it can be anatomical. It can be your tongue falling back. That's
what it is for me.
Yeah. So it keeps the passage open. It's just the slight pressure, and it's really nice because it's like you take a deep breath and it fills your lungs because there's just that little extra push, and it's totally quiet. Like there's all this stigma around it. Like people think it's really like gross or loud or whatever. It's not. The new machines are great, and they have a humidifier in them, so you can adjust the.
How do you power it up when you're camping and stuff?
Well, I've got electrical system in the van, and I also have a backup battery, a little lithium battery.
That's all you need?
Yeah.
Power the whole night like that?
Yeah, if you don't use the humidifier. If you use the humidifier, it sucks up more because it's a heating element.
Does the humidifier help?
Yeah, it's great because you can adjust it. Like here in LA, we're in a desert. It's dry, so you can turn it up. If you're, I was in Seattle, I turn it off. Doesn't matter.
So it's just changed the way you feel?
I feel so much better. I'm like sleeping through the night. I dream again. Yeah. I feel kind of evangelical about it because, I know a lot of people have this, men and women. And there's this weird kind of shame around it, and I'm just trying to be like,
it's a weird thing to be shameful of.
Yeah,
right?
Fuck it, man. Sleep. You got to sleep. It's really important. It makes everything better. You're like 50% more likely to have car accidents if you have sleep apnea.
Oh, yeah.
It'll fuck up your job. You won't get hard-ons. It'll like ruin everything.
Some people, it's really bad too, and it goes on for years and years and years. And they don't even know about it. I was on a plane once, and there was a guy behind me, and I would hear...
Yeah.
And I turned around and I was like, oh, this poor bastard. He was a big guy, like very overweight. And I mean, I was watching this guy lying there with his mouth open like this.
Suffocating.
For a long time.
Yeah.
And then finally he would jostle and catch some air. And he woke up and I said, hey, man. And I said, do you know you have sleep apnea? He's like, what do you mean? And I said, okay, let me tell you what's going on. And I showed him my mouthpiece. I go, like, I have this thing that I have to sleep with because it was a long flight we were on. And I said, you got to go to a doctor, get that checked out. And he goes, oh, okay, thanks. I go, no, really?
Yeah.
You got to go to a doctor. I go, it'll change your life, man.
Heart disease, like a lot of bad shit can happen.
It also affects people's dietary choices because when you're exhausted like that, I know how I am. Like last night, I was tired. I came home from the Improv. It was like 1 o'clock in the morning. I should not have eaten, but I was like, fuck it. And I made a peanut butter and jelly sandwich at 1 a.m. I definitely shouldn't have had that.
Where's the El Camino and jalapenos, man?
Well, I just felt like peanut butter and jelly.
Yeah, got to do it.
It's a bad choice. But when you're tired, you make bad choices.
Right.
You make bad dietary choices. It's very, very common.
Yeah.
When people are exhausted and overworked. And I think that has to apply to people with sleep apnea.
Yeah.
Where you're always exhausted. Like throughout the day, you're just sucking down coffee and trying to stay awake.
Yeah. Yeah, my dad had it for sure, and he never had it treated, and yeah, maybe that's another reason that I'm sort of evangelical about it, because it's like it's so easy. So many of the things that mess up our lives are really hard to address, like the litany of things you were talking about, board meetings and all that. But if you can get a good night's sleep for a visit to a doctor, and this thing cost $800 for this machine I have.
Yeah, it changes your whole life.
Your whole life solves the problem.
Yeah,
like that's pretty cool.
It's pretty fucking cool. Some people have a problem with those CPAP machines, but maybe it's just the kind they use. Joey Diaz changed his life. He started using that thing. He brings it. He's got a portable unit. He brings them on planes.
Yeah,
brings it everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great. I mean, I wish every problem were that easy to solve.
Yeah, right? No kidding.
Yeah.
What else you got there?
On my list?
Made a bunch of notes.
The Motherfucker Awards.
What's that?
Do you know about that? So my buddy Kyle and I did it last year. So the idea is we were hiking one day in Topanga, and we were talking about how he's an environmental activist as well as a big wave surfer. Kyle Tierman Show. He's a podcast as well.
Everybody has a podcast.
Everybody's got a podcast. He's a really good guy. He's like one of these. I think he's 28. He's like super earnest, and he's the kind of guy like you're having a conversation and you mention a book, and a week later he's like, "Hey, I read that book you mentioned. It's really good." It's like, all right, all young people should be like you. He's really like smart.
In.
And serious about stuff. Anyway, we were talking about how hard it is to get people to pay attention to environmental issues because it's such a downer, And I was like, man, I know all these comedians. It would be cool if we could find a way to get comedy into the environmental thing. And we came up with this idea where we flip everything upside down and we say we have an awards ceremony to honor the companies that are doing the most to fuck Mother Earth. And the awards are accepted on behalf of the companies by comedians. So we did it last year, and it was fucking wild. It was so great. So the presenters were people like Matt Taibbi from Rolling Stone, and the guy who was the founder of Greenpeace, and different environmental people and sort of political people, and accepting on behalf of these people like Leo Flowers, if you know him, Jake Johansson,
sure.
Moshe Kasher and Natasha Leggero did this incredible bit where they were incestuous brother-sister couple. Yeah, they are. Yeah, I think they represented Chase Bank. And Brendan Walsh. He was fantastic.
He looks like Dennis Miller there.
Hey, he does. Yeah. So it was great. We wore tuxedos and we did this whole thing.
Where'd you do it at?
At a theater in
the Miracle Theater in Inglewood.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was great. And it's funded by various people, but the Nell Newman Foundation, Paul Newman's daughter.
Oh, cool.
She's a big supporter.
When are you doing it again?
December 3rd.
Ah, cool.
Yeah, it's great.
Same place?
Same place. If you're free, come accept an award.
Yeah, let me find out. I think I'm out of town.
Yeah, that's the thing. We're lining up like Brian Callen.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, he wants to do it, but it depends. Lots of people.
We're working together tonight.
Oh, good.
We worked together last night.
I had dinner with him a week ago.
Yeah, we did 2 shows last night. We're doing 2 shows tonight.
I like that guy a lot.
I love him to death. He's one of my favorite people.
Yeah, and he's also real down to earth. He's a real dude.
Super.
People often ask me like, I guess I'm like a conduit to people like you and Brian, and it's like, what are they like in real life? They're like they seem to be. You know?
I don't think you could do as many podcasts as he does, or as many as I do, and be somebody else.
Right.
I don't think
It's too much work holding up the facade.
I don't think it would work.
Yeah.
I don't think you could hold up a facade that long.
Yeah.
I don't. I mean, again, everybody varies. You vary who you are, dependent upon the day and the stresses and the influences in life. But I don't know anybody who's full of shit. Like, I don't know anybody who's doing a podcast who's got like a totally different persona.
Right.
I bet a lot of those self-help fellas probably they're rocking that.
Yeah.
That's a full of shit industry.
Yeah.
You know, it's like it's one of those. It's like there's people that are real self-help people that are doing real work, and they really are committed to it, and they love it, and they really love helping people. And then there's other people that find that as like a niche. It's a way to get in. It's a little greased path.
Yeah.
It helps you like slip on in.
Yeah. 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 And sometimes it's hard to tell who's who in that world.
Yeah.
You know?
That's a weird world. It's one of the weirdest worlds. The world of constant motivation, where you're constantly motivating people and trying to find some new way to say things you've already said 1,000 times.
And what's it all boil down to? You know? It all boils down to the same simple shit again and again.
It does.
Experience over possessions, forgive yourself and others, love yourself and others.
But sometimes they can say something that resonates. Some people can say something that resonates. But those people there has to be something unique about them, like their life experiences. They have to have accomplished something. There has to be some actual meat behind their words. And there's a lot of people that are doing it that are just doing it. They're not really doing anything else. Yeah, they just do that. And that's very strange. It's very strange because they've tapped into this need and this feeling that people have where they need to be motivated, and they need someone to say positive spiritual things that resonate with them. So these people have sort of found that as a way to become popular or famous or insta famous or whatever. You know?
Yeah, it's like buying a membership to a gym and then never going. You know, or what I do sometimes, like I love to buy camping gear.
Do you?
I don't really camp very much though.
Yeah,
but I love camping gear, man. Like high quality tents and backpacks.
I go to REI. I have grand plans.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I need stakes. I need those little fucking aluminum stakes to get the tents into the dirt.
Oh, dude.
Clink, clink.
The spiral ones.
Oh, yeah.
They're really good in sand as well.
Yes,
I got them. I got a special hammer to put them in, and then it's got holes that you like hook and pull them out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I've used it maybe twice in 5 years.
If you're lucky. Yeah, I bought one of them fucking, what are those things called? Those little stoves, the little propane stoves. Little thing sits on top of it. Never used it. Yeah. Just sitting I was like, I'm going to use this on our next trip.
But when civilization collapses, you got that in the garage. That's
when
really
civilization
important.
collapses, you really want flint and steel, and you want some tinder. I mean, you can't count on any of that shit because you don't know how to make a lighter. So you can't count on lighters. You got to be able to make a fire without a lighter. Also, when civilization ends, you're not going to want to live.
Yeah, that's the thing.
It's just too hard.
There's no way to really prepare for it.
It's too hard.
Yeah.
You know, to live, I mean, I guess if that's all you've ever known, if all you've ever known was living in an incredibly primitive way and hunting and gathering, you'd be fine with it.
Well, hunting and gathering is easy for hunter-gatherers.
If you live in a fertile place.
Even if you don't. In the Kalahari Desert, the Kung San people work roughly 20 hours a week. And what we're calling work is hunting and gathering.
What are they hunting?
I guess there are some sorts of antelope, rabbits, rats, desert rat. I don't know. I haven't spent much time in the Kalahari Desert.
Speaking of rats, there's a fucking crazy article about these monkeys that are eating rats. Macaque, how do you say it? Macaque monkeys. Look at this.
Yeah.
Macaque. Killer rat-eating monkey stuns scientist in Malaysia. I saw that yesterday, and I was going to tweet it, but I was like, all right, I've tweeted too many fucking crazy things today. Whenever I read something really bonkers, and I tweet it, but that one I'm like, I'm saving this one for tomorrow. But look at the size of that goddamn rat. And these monkeys are ferocious predators. And they thought of these monkeys as being primarily fruit eaters. But no, they really favor eating rats. And it's holding this goddamn rat down and eating it head first.
It's a hell of an image.
Fucking A, right?
Yeah. Well, you ever been to...
or something?
Yes, like a sandwich.
Yeah.
Yes,
It's like he's eating a hoagie.
Yeah, a foot long rat.
Fucking A, man. Look at his, like, the distant look in his eyes. Like, yes,
exactly.
just eating a rat head.
Yeah. You ever been in a place with wild monkeys?
Yes.
Yeah.
Costa Rica. Dude, it was weird. We were worried.
Do they come right up to the...
Yeah.
Okay.
We were staying at this resort, and we one of my kids wanted to feed the monkey an Oreo, and my wife was like, "Oh, we probably shouldn't. It's not good for him." And then I said, "Let's give him one fucking Oreo. Who cares? I bet he's already had an Oreo before." I forget what the conversation was. Anyway, the monkey takes the Oreo, opens it, and eats the white frosting. I was like,
shit.
that little motherfucker's
He's
eating a lot of
definitely
Oreos. He knew exactly what to do.
Yeah.
He turned it, just like everybody does, and starts scraping off the frosting and looking right at you. Yeah, it was. There was different kinds of monkeys too. There was howler monkeys, and then there was There was big monkeys and little monkeys. That's a crazy place. Costa Rica's wild, man. Crocodiles and shit. That was another interesting place I visited. The crocodiles are a trip, man, because we were in a boat and we went on this like sort of tour of this river system. And you go on a tour of the river system, and I'm watching this fucking 15-foot crocodile slide into the water from the bank. I'm like, fuck. And you see the crocodile slides all over the banks because these rivers are just filled with crocodiles. And so anytime my kid would come anywhere close to the railing of the boat, I'm like, hey, let's stay over here. Let's stay in the middle.
Yeah.
Get the fuck away from the monsters.
I met this dude long time ago. I don't remember where I was, but we were sitting around a fire talking about like bizarre experiences we'd had traveling, whatever. He was from, I think, New Hampshire, and he had a thing, like you and Marshall go running every morning. He had a thing where he and his dog would go down to the lake and take a swim every day at dusk. When he got home from work, he'd take the dog for a swim. It was a black lab, I think. And he went to visit his brother in Florida. And he drove down there, and his brother was out, and when he arrived, and it was around dusk, and he's like, let's go for a swim. There's a lake, and he jumps in the water with his dog, and they're swimming across the lake, and it's quiet, right? And he hears this plop, plop. And he's like, wow, what was that? That's a weird sound. And then he realizes, I'm in fucking Florida. I'm not in New Hampshire. There are alligators here. What the fuck am I doing? So he turns around and starts swimming back, and he's swimming along trying not to panic, and the fucking dog goes, arr, arr. Dog's gone. Fucking alligator croc came up and took his dog. Never saw the dog again. What?
It could have been him, too.
Yeah.
One of my favorite alligator stories from Florida is there was a high-speed chase. Guy had a stolen car, and he gets to a bridge. The cops are chasing him. Guy jumps out of the car, jumps off the bridge, gets eaten immediately by an alligator. Literally landed in front of the alligator. And the alligator just
lucky day.
Snap. They don't eat people that often, but they definitely will.
Yeah, in
it's not
Africa they do.
Well, the crocodiles.
Crocs, yeah.
Alligators are less aggressive than crocodiles, and there are crocodiles in Florida, but they're much less frequent.
What's the difference?
American alligators are a smaller animal. They have a longer, pointier snout, and they have more exposed teeth. An alligator has a blunt, more rounded face, and they get much larger than American crocodiles. American crocodiles are pretty small. American alligators get pretty fucking big.
So in Africa, do they have crocs and alligators?
No, Africa is just crocodiles.
Just crocs.
They have much more
huge.
aggressive crocodiles too. They have Nile crocodiles.
Right. You see them take those water buffalo and stuff.
Terrifying.
Yeah.
Saltwater crocodiles.
I thought I'd seen video of what you said, so I Googled it. 4 different times, at least in the last couple of years, this has happened. One guy lost his arm. 2 people died.
The Florida thing?
Getting chased by the cops and ended up getting eaten by an alligator. It's not just one time. It's happened.
That's fucking Florida, man.
Florida, man.
Florida is so wacky.
Yeah.
That is the place where all the refugees and the outcasts, they all go to Florida, man. Yeah. Yeah, more than once. I'm sure it makes sense. When you jump in the water, man, you're risking it. Like just because alligators don't eat people as often as crocodiles do in Africa, it doesn't mean that they wouldn't. They don't have a rule book.
Right.
Like, oh, that's a person, shouldn't
Right.
eat them. They don't give a fuck if you're a dog or a person or a kid.
Yeah.
There was an alligator ate a baby at Disney World.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah, like 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, a fucking 2-year-old baby playing by the water. The alligator
That's
just
gotta be-
slides up onto the bank, snatch, pulls it right under.
Oh man.
Fuck!
That's
Fuck
a
those
bad
things.
day. Yeah.
When I lived in Florida, when I was a kid,
Huh.
we lived in Gainesville, and there was alligators everywhere. And I remember one of them snatched some lady's dog, and I was like, Jesus Christ! I didn't know they kill people's dogs.
Yeah.
Because you would see them floating around, and they seemed so innocuous because they were almost always still.
Yeah.
They very rarely moved. There were signs they didn't want you to feed them marshmallows. People would throw marshmallows, and the alligators would eat marshmallows.
And they just don't want you
They don't
because they
digest them
float.
well.
The marshmallows
Yeah.
float, I guess. Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
would just chew them up and swallow them. So
Yeah.
people would throw marshmallows at the alligators just to see it. And that was back when alligators were endangered. This was in the late 70s. And they're not endangered anymore. In fact, you could kill as many of, like, you can get a commercial hunting tag for 500 alligators. I watched that on that Swamp People show.
Never seen it.
There's a show about alligator killers.
Oh,
They're just
Jesus.
killing alligators because
Do you
there's
know
a commercial market.
the last Indians to be pacified? I hate that phrase. In the United States, the last tribe to finally give up was the Seminole in the Everglades.
Yeah.
Like after the Apaches and the Sioux and all that. Yeah, because man, the
Yeah,
Everglades,
they
that
take
would be
pride
a
in
weird
that.
life.
Yeah.
To
Fuck.
live in the Everglades.
Well, the Everglades are another thing that human beings ruined because of white trash people in Florida. Because releasing pythons, there's literally nothing left alive in the Everglades. All the deer are missing. All the raccoons are missing. All the marsh hares gone.
Yeah.
Everything's missing. Like these scientists and biologists have done these surveys of wildlife, and the difference between like 1980 and 2019 is so unbelievably stark.
Yeah.
It's so crazy, and it's all those fucking dorks that want to keep pets, and then they release them. They release them out there in the wild.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pythons.
But it's not just the Everglades, right? I read recently like 30% of all the birds in North America are gone.
Well, that's
in the
a lot
last
of that's house
40
cats. A
years.
lot of that's house cats.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen the numbers of
Yeah.
how many house cats, how many
Yeah.
birds house cats kill? Billions.
Yeah. Yeah.
Billions in United States.
But they're cute.
Adorable. Fucking billions though.
Killers.
Billions
Yeah.
of birds.
Yeah.
Like you see, like scientists were baffled when they did the actual survey and they found the real numbers. They're like, this can't be real. This can't be right. Billions.
You have a cat, right?
Yeah, 2 cats.
Oh, you had a whole bit in your stand-up about
yeah.
a cat. I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like cats.
I love cats.
Yeah, they're interesting creatures. I had 3 of them in Spain. It was fun. They had their own little world. You know.
Oh yeah.
3 of them did what they wanted to do.
The only bummer is litter boxes.
Yeah,
So-
I had them outside. Got to
You
have them
can't-
outside the house.
In my neighborhood, you cannot.
Yeah.
Coyotes.
Yeah, no coyotes
Owls.
in Barcelona.
Owls and coyotes.
Yeah,
Those owls are a motherfucker. They'll snatch them up just as quick as anything.
yeah.
We have big owls out here.
So if you were going to die from an animal attack, what animal would you like to die from?
You'd like a big cat because they would kill you before they'd eat you. You know?
Yeah.
A bear will just eat you.
Yeah. Black bear will eat you. Grizzly bears
Grizzly bears
sometimes
will eat you too.
Well, they'll fuck you up. And anyway, this is what I was told when I was in Alaska, that you play dead with a grizzly, but never with a black.
Well,
Because some grizzlies, if they think you're dead, they'll kick some dust on you and come back a week later
To
when
eat you
you're
when you're
fermented.
rotten.
They're like French people. They want it to stink, you know?
like old cheese. That's not totally true. It depends on how hungry they are and whether or not they're old, but you are more likely to be attacked by a black bear for predation.
Right.
A friend of mine was attacked recently.
Really?
Yeah, he had to shoot a black bear. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, he was. He tried to chase it off. He stumbled upon. There was a smell. He's a rancher. He stumbled upon this smell, and the smell was a dead cow. And this black bear had been eating this dead cow, and he tried to chase the black bear off. And the black bear decided to try to go after him, and had to wind up shooting it.
He had a rifle or a pistol?
I think it was a pistol, but it wouldn't stop. It wouldn't leave him alone. He's trying to, hey, get the fuck out of here. Go, waving his arms.
Yeah.
And it woofed at him. Then it turned around and came at him from another direction. And then it literally ran up within like 20 feet of him. He's like, okay, we're done here.
That happened to me with a monkey once.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you shoot the monkey?
I didn't, no.
Did you feed him a rat?
This was in Malaysia. I was in botanical gardens in Penang, Malaysia. I actually told this story at the beginning of Sex at Dawn. I was with my girlfriend at the time, and like your situation in Costa Rica, she wanted to give some peanuts to these monkeys. These guys at the entrance were selling little bags of peanuts. And so there was this baby monkey hanging by his tail over the trail where we were, and she pulled out this bag of peanuts and opened it, and that attracted all this attention from other monkeys. And while she was handing a peanut to the baby, this other monkey jumped out from the bushes, leapt on her, took the bag of peanuts, and was gone, like in a flash. Happened so fast. She's screaming. I'm like, what the fuck? It was just like, holy shit. And we're surrounded by these monkeys. They're everywhere. And that's when we realized like all the local people had these big sticks. And we thought they were walking sticks or something. They're like to keep the monkeys away. I didn't have a stick. So I got like...
Protective?
I was triggered. Yeah. I got like, fuck you, monkeys. Like you're not, you leave my girl alone.
He said that like Joe Dirt.
I was not into it.
Right.
And I felt like, all this testosterone and adrenaline. And I was like, ah!
Yeah.
And
Hulk smash.
Yeah. So we 20 minutes later, we're in this sort of field. And there's a tree in the middle of the field, and there are more baby monkeys. And by now, she's totally forgotten about it. She's just like, oh, they're cute. So I have the peanuts now, and she wants to give more peanuts. So I pull out a bag to give to her, and this monkey comes out of the woods, sort of a big one, and he's like looking at me. And I'm just like, fuck you, dude. Like, I'm 3 times your size. Fuck you. And he sort of like moves, sort of does this thing, and he's looking at me, and there's a branch, and I picked up the branch and threw it at him, right? Kind of like what your buddy was trying to do with his bear, like, hey, get the fuck out of here, And this monkey just looked at the branch land in front of him and looked up at me, and it was like, you fucked up. And he leapt over it and came charging at me with like these fangs, just coming straight at me. I went nuts. I turned into a monkey. I just started going, and I was like jumping up and down and spraying spit everywhere. And he stopped, and we're like, ah! And my girlfriend's screaming, and we're like 10 feet away. And then he just like backed up and like, yeah, fuck you.
Whoa.
And left. Primal moment.
Whoa.
Very primal moment.
And you didn't plan that?
No.
Wow.
No. If I'd had a stick, it wouldn't have been necessary.
Oof. So the moral of the story is carry a stick when you're around monkeys.
Walk softly.
Yeah.
Carry a big stick.
Dude, I gotta wrap this up.
Yeah. Let's go take a nap.
I got shit to do.
Oh, no.
Civilized to Death. The Price of Progress. Christopher Ryan. Tangentially Speaking. And what's the other one?
Talking about it forever. The first book, Sex at Dawn.
No. What do you call your podcast from the van? It's still just
Tangentially
Speaking?
It's still Tangentially Speaking. It's just hashtag Vanthropology on social media.
Always good to see you, brother.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah.
Bye, everybody.